Welcome to episode 94 of Geeks Who Like Sports. As always, I am Ray Carcillo in miserable Los Angeles, California. Joining my best friend entire world over in miserable Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That's under 3 feet of snow. Lee Elias. Lee, how's it going today?
It's not miserable. It's just beautiful outside. 3 feet, that was a generous. I'd say we got about a foot yesterday. It's still.
It's an embellishment.
It just started to snow. Stop snowing. Excuse me. No, look. I was shoveling all morning. I got a workout in because of that. I got to sled a little bit with my children. Shot a few basketball hoops with a snowy basketball hoop, which was fun. Did get them in. That made me feel pretty good. But yes, most of the Northeast is under snow, and most of California is under a laser beam, apparently, that we're not going to go into deeply. But just know, Ray, that I know. And that's what you need to know. For those of you at home,
Lee has been trying to get me back to the East Coast so much, folks, that he's been firing lasers from space. He is the cause of the fire tornadoes. He has built his Death Star. It is operational.
Right. For those of you that are listening to the show, I'm holding up my Imperial Death Star Orbital Battle Station handbook, given to me by our producer, Caitlin. Didn't know it at the time, but really a great resource for both destroying rebel planets and intimidating Ray to come back to the Northeast. So, Ray, you have to decide. Do you want bad air quality and lasers or snow that makes everything look beautiful outside? I'm looking out the window now. I'm not looking forward to shoveling snow again. My poor parents and grandparents they're up in Jersey. They are under 2 feet of snow. They are. White pandemic.
Yes. So anyway, we got a big.
Let's just be honest. Let's just be honest real quick. We've been trained over here in the Northeast. For those of you in the Northeast, we've been trained for about 9 months on how to be secluded in our homes. If this is bugging you, you missed the boat. Literally, okay? This is nothing right now. It's nothing. People are it's snow and the weather. We've been in this position. I can't do anything I want to do. What were you doing?
What were you doing before this?
I guess I got to
watch Netflix.
The
thing is, out here in L.A., they've allowed outside dining again, and all the morons without masks on out there, because you need to get your sushi. Well, have fun breathing in that crematorium air.
Yeah, we should let everybody know that California right now, especially Los Angeles, is one of the most highly infected areas of the country.
Yes,
where probably outdoor dining probably isn't a great idea right now. But we will have critics that agree with us, disagree with us on that. Just overall, be safe, be smart, and shop S-Smart.
Yes, be smart, shop S-Smart. Yes, yeah. So again, we have our opinions on that, and I, obviously being here in LA, have my opinions.
I agree with you. Just so you know,
yeah,
I agree with you.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom is a jerk, and
right. You need to move back east.
Yeah. As soon as I can get a vaccine.
Hey, listen, everybody listening, and those people watching, look into my eyes. I will save him. Or in the words of General Zod, I will find him, and I will bring him back.
So, folks, we have a huge show for you this week. I don't mean to cut Lee off there. We could go on the Zod thing for a while. But we've got a lot to get to. We've got, obviously, we've got hockey. We've got baseball. We've got football.
Sunday! The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, led by Tom Brady, will take on the Kansas City Chiefs by Patrick Mahomes. But first, we have a whole geek segment we got to go through. That is cutting somebody off with style.
Yes. Yeah, we got a whole lot of geek stuff. We got Wonder Woman, HBO Max. We got Batman. We got the stock market. That's going to be a fun segment. But first, we're kicking things off as usual. Wandavision, Flourish! Wandavision episode 4. Lee, we've got a lot to flourish. Yeah. Checking my levels there, make sure. The audio's not so bad. Poor Caitlin, probably like,
or the people listening in their cars. They're just like, oh my gosh, the Ray guy.
Causing accidents. So, we've got a lot to talk about with WandaVision, episode 4. We finally get. We're not going to give a whole recap, but we basically get the first 3 episodes from the perspective of the real world, of SWORD. We find out that SWORD is an organization that was founded by Maria Rambeau, basically right after the events of Captain Marvel, so it's been around for 30 years or so, and that basically Monica, her daughter, who was, of course, a little girl in Captain Marvel, now all grown up, she was blipped out of existence. She came back. In the time that she was gone, her mother passed. By the way, fun fan theory, the reason why Captain Marvel had a shaved head in Endgame was that basically in that time, she did it in camaraderie for her best friend Maria, who of course was going through they revealed that she was going through cancer treatment, and of course she ended up losing her battle with cancer in the show, and making it sound like, you know, a real person, but like it was very well done. It was very dramatic in the fact that when Monica finds out, and then basically she's going back to work for Sword. She's going basically working her first major case back about a month after the blip is this disappeared town in the middle of New Jersey, which I was right. I confirmed it is New Jersey. Ha ha. I don't know. Just little things I need to take pride in. But, and then basically how Monica gets sucked in and how Sword is dealing with Wanda and the bubble, which it is officially a hexagonal bubble.
That is true. So again, if you want to see like a full recap, go over to streamlounge.io. Ray and I, if you don't know, if this is your first episode, we do live watchings with commentary. We are loving that audience in there. If you're not a commentator, like you don't like commentary, this is nothing like that. This is like watching it live with friends.
Yes.
So it's not like you're just listening to a director talk. I mean, we can interact with you. So if you want a full minute-by-minute encounter of the episode, all of them actually, check out streamlounge.io. Ray and I are working hard with that group right now to bring that to fruition. A few notes on what you just said, Ray. We should remind people at home. So Captain Marvel at this time, there was a end scene or an extra scene at the end of Infinity War in which she comes back right after the snap, looking for Nick Fury. So we do know that she returned to Earth pretty quickly, obviously, as she was in the interstellar world. She knows something happened. She came back right away for Fury, who used that pager. So she's around, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that she did spend some time with Maria Lambeau and obviously grieved about the fact that her daughter had been, snapped out of existence. Yeah. Who knows how that worked? And then, yes, as you said, I really enjoyed this episode because it encapsulates kind of the older Marvel feeling. I said on our watch that it's very much like a Lost episode. It's what it felt like to me, where they're answering lots of questions and creating new questions. So again, I don't want to dive too much into the minute by minute stuff. I thought it was a really fun episode. What I will say is there's some things that I've noticed since then. Some of the questions that are popping out that are making me think. So there's this board that Jimmy Woo is using. We see Agnes on there with no license, but we do not see Dottie. And then I remembered him saying that there's a missing persons case. So I wonder if Dottie is somehow the missing person or if it's Agnes. I don't know. Ray and I both believe that Agnes might be Agatha Harkness, a witch.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah, but now here's the thing. This is where I'm going to say something to you, Ray. Okay? It is clear she's in a bubble in New Jersey. Like I'm not arguing that. Yeah. I just know Marvel. And it's just there's something off here that they're not telling us. So I don't think the bubble's a red herring or anything like that. I just think there's much more going on that they haven't unveiled yet. That's going to be the big twist at the end. I don't know what that is. Another thing I've noticed, and I don't know if you actually, Ray, we haven't talked about this. I don't even know if you've noticed this. Might mean something, might mean nothing. This is how Marvel works. At the end of each episode in the credit scene where we see the manipulation of the pixels, they always end going into Vision's eye. Yeah. And it's always a Vision from that episode. Right? So, what does that mean? Does that maybe Vision is creating this reality? I don't know. I mean, it's this is what I'm saying. The fact they go, it's Wanda. I'm like, do I trust you with this? Because, and again, I don't know. It might be as literal as it is. But I will say this. Last thing I'm going to say, Ray, real quick.
I think it's a bit of a stretch.
I will say this. I don't think it is Vision. I'm just saying we don't know. Yeah. What I'm saying to you is this. There is a massive twist that I don't think anyone's going to see coming. And I don't mean something like, something massive about this story that we don't see. A lot of traction right now on the internet about Mephisto. A surprising amount. From fans.
I'm
I don't know if I agree with that.
Inclined to that, although I'm also starting to worry. Supposedly, episodes 5 and 6 were briefly leaked.
Well, I didn't see that, and I don't want to see it.
That's the thing. I've been trying to avoid those, which is also why basically the last couple of days I've stopped looking at WandaVision stuff because I don't know who has seen stuff, who hasn't, and who is basically now trying to make themselves look like they're smart because they're like,
that's fair.
"Oh, hey, I saw the leak, so I know what's happening the next 2 episodes."
And I'll tell you this: if I don't think Mephisto, if it is Mephisto, I don't think that's being revealed until very, very late in the show.
Yeah, well, I think a big part of it is going to also be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I think that there's going to be a big multiversal element to this, which I admit keep forgetting a bit. But like, again, I mentioned this on StreamLounge.io. I really think that something to keep an eye out for, and not necessarily, but something to keep an eye out for, because we know he's the main villain in Ant-Man 3.
Yes.
Is Kang the Conqueror going to be part of this? He's a villain from another timeline and another universe. It would explain the multiverse thing. He likes to mess with the Avengers. He's constantly messing in one form. He messes with Wanda and Vision when he becomes a Mortis and messes with their whole reality and is another person who he actually leads to the death of Vision the first time in the comics. And he's the one who leads to the creation of the White Vision, which was my big thing from this episode. Also, by the way, I do believe that Wanda is basically animating the dead body of the Vision. We see one point where the illusion breaks a little bit for her, and we see Vision as he was in Infinity War, where the gem was removed from his head. He was pale. He looked like the White Vision from the comics. And remember, he is a robot. He is a synthesoid, so I'm not going to say, well, Vision's dead, he's gone forever. They could very easily do what they did in the comics, which is reprogram him, and then obviously he comes back to life. He's a robot, right? So they could fix him, but again, like in the comics, he wasn't fixed to his full potential. And that in that case, there's a whole storyline about how Wonder Man refused to give his brain waves back, and there's a whole thing with that in the comics. But I'm not going to get into it. I'm just saying, this could also be very much a thing to be like, look, Vision is dead as we knew him, but he's not going to be gone forever. And I think that also, Kang would make a lot of sense for that in terms of, again, multiverse, and again, also setting himself as a villain for the next couple of movies. Again, since we know we're not getting a proper Avenger movie, but we know this is going to be a major villain and is traditionally a major villain in the Marvel universe. So that's one of my theories.
So Ray, I got two questions for you.
Yes.
All right. First question is this. So Ray and I had been discussing this. I have a theory on the show that it potentially might link back to the end of Endgame, which Ray's thoughts were, well, I want them to move forward. I don't want them to move backward, right? And I agree with you on that, Ray. I don't want an ending where it just leaves us where we were. That would be a waste, unless it creates something like Kang or something like that. So my question to you is this sideways, with the multiverse aspect. Will you be equally as upset if this is an alternate Earth and that none of this is taking place in the normal timeline? Was it 636 or 616?
Yeah, the 616. Well, 616 is in the movie universe is 1999 actually.
Right.
That's their own universe.
616 is the primary comic.
Is the primary comic universe? Right. Yeah. I would be okay with it if on this Earth, because there's another big thing. They keep mentioning Big Bang energy a lot of times and creation energy in this episode. If this leads to mutants on this Earth, and then somehow with Multiverse of Madness, those mutants then transfer over to the main movie universe. Right. I would be okay with it depending on what they did with it.
That's totally fair. And like I said, there is a lot of inklings. Look, you'd be a crazy comic book fan if you didn't think the Fantastic Four may somehow be involved in this.
Somebody coming out of this, yeah.
The other thing, it's not so much a question. The other thing I wanted to mention is, we've talked about this being a slow burn, the show, and people getting frustrated.
Yeah.
I got to say this. And again, there's probably different audiences for this. One of the things I really love about this show, Ray, is the simple thing of it brings me back to middle school and high school where you and I are arguing about where this thing's going to go.
Yes.
And what I remember, sorry for that audio spike there as I laughed. What I remember is doing this with Star Wars in like 7th grade when we had no new movies. It's like, no, Boba Fett's alive. No, he's not. And now we have an answer to that, ironically enough. But that's the best part of this show for those of you who can't enjoy the slow burn is all of this. Well, what's going to happen next? Don't ever underestimate that. And if anything, this is causing us to actually practice against immediate gratification, which is, I think, a really good thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, just enjoy it. Everyone's talking about it. Everybody's loving it. There's a lot of negative comments, but here's the thing. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's talking about this show. You're all watching it.
Yes.
Most of you are really enjoying it. And I like the idea, Ray, that you go, I don't like your idea, Lee. And I'm like, that's fine. You know, I think this might happen. I love those conversations. Okay.
Yes.
And like I said, I wouldn't give those up for the world. I wouldn't necessarily get in a fist fight with you about it unless we could get a sandwich right after. But, you know, again, you can't fist fight in COVID world anymore. Can't do it. You know.
Womp womp.
And that's the end of my point. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I just want to say, this was probably, the episode's grown on me as more and more as time has gone on, I think, over the weekend, because at first I was not happy with this episode because, I don't know, it felt like a bit of an info dump, and it felt like...
I think you were expecting something different, and it handed you something you weren't expecting, which, to be fair, that happens to all of us. I mean, episode 2 of this season of The Mandalorian, we were like, yeah, Great Dragon, I'm ready. Here's ice spiders and the frog lady.
Yeah. I mean, I would also say that I think Mandalorian does a better job of being truly episodic, where it's like
totally
you have... You have a beginning, middle, and end per episode, as well as that overarching storyline for the season that is being pushed forward.
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Whereas I think this is why a lot of people are also irked by WandaVision, is that this really does feel like this will be a lot better binged, because it really is a 4.5 hour movie cut up into 9 sections. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why they released the first 2 episodes at once.
Oh, I agree.
I agree. And I think actually... I think this would actually have been better as 5-hour-long episodes instead of 9 half-hour episodes.
That might be true, too. Look, this is all I'm going to say, is that we waited literally from birth, both of us, till 1999 to get new Star Wars films. Now, Marvel is so good what they're going to... Listen, I'm gonna go on a limb here, and I'll totally tell everybody if I was wrong here. I'm going to go on a limb and say that this show is going to have an epic ending, an epic twist, and I actually think it's just getting started. I actually think that the next 4 episodes, the last 4 episodes of the season, are all going to be like, whoa.
5.
That's 5? There's 9, right? Yeah, so
5
episodes.
There's 5 episodes left.
Right.
Yeah,
so thank you. Thank you for correcting me there. So I think this show's about to heat up, all right? And I think that these first 4 were just the warm-up. But you know there's going to be a Marvel ending to this. There's no way they would have just put this out without that. So they may make changes in the future, but I am significantly happy with what they've done. And again, Ray, you said that episode grew on you, I think, a little bit as you let it resonate. It is tough when you're expecting something and it doesn't happen, because it's like Ghostbusters, right? Like I've said this before, like that Ghostbusters remake, we were all expecting something and it didn't deliver in any way, right? Yeah. But that Ghostbusters movie wasn't a bad comedy movie in terms of like just being generally a comedy movie,
right?
But it doesn't live anywhere close to the Ghostbusters moniker, in my opinion.
Yes. Well, and I mean, we've said it before. The worst thing they did was trying to make that a different universe. They could have that was the big.
It was a mistake. But like I said, I watched that later again just to give it a.
It's not a terrible. It's not a bad.
It wasn't horrible. Yeah, it wasn't as horrible as I thought. It's a forgettable movie, but it wasn't horrible.
Yeah.
No offense to the ladies that took that on. It's not your fault.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. Like, it wasn't the acting that was a problem in that. Right. Which is a lot of times in a lot of movies. It's usually the writing and the directing. Right. But I'm curious to see what happens with WandaVision. I'm really curious to see what happens with episodes 5 and 6. And obviously 7, 8, and 9. But like supposedly a lot is going to happen in the next couple of weeks. I have heard that much.
Join us. Streamlounge.io or watch our replays. You can comment on those
so
too.
Join us at streamlounge.io. We're going to do it again Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's a free account as long as you have and that too. And all you need is Disney Plus. If you're already watching WandaVision, you might as well watch it with me and Lee. So there you go. But
yeah, like I said, we can't. If you watch the replays, we can't comment back. If we do comment back on the replays, contact us immediately because something's happening.
Yeah, that's a multiverse of madness for sure.
Yeah,
but moving on. Moving on to other shows on Disney Plus, we know we got a lot of stuff coming out. We got Loki coming, we got Falcon and Winter Soldier, really just a couple weeks after WandaVision is supposed to end. But this was just announced yesterday. This is a very big deal. I think a lot of people are very excited about this. They've announced a Black Panther show as well for Disney Plus now. It's called Kingdom of Wakanda. It's going to probably follow the other characters around Wakanda and the Black Panther universe. And yeah, I'm all for this. I think it's a good thing. I'm all for it. I hope it continues to expand the universe more and more. It might follow Shuri some as she takes on the Black Panther mantle.
I'm sure
it might actually be a bridge into Black Panther 2. Not sure exactly what they're doing with it, but sounds good to me.
I am sure that this will be about Shuri becoming Black Panther. It would almost be inappropriate to do that in a film. Unless the entire film is about it, which they're not going to do. So I think that this is a smart move, and I think it obviously is coming off the death of
Chadwick Boseman.
Thank you. Sorry, I apologize for forgetting his name there for a moment. Obviously, coming off that, this is the right way to handle it, and we'll see how they do it. You got to trust the process with that one. But yeah, look, the more shows, the better. I'm sure Marvel and Disney have in their back pocket many shows that they were probably just like, let's see how WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier do, and if we like it, we'll put these out. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. I think the MCU is taking a drastic turn here. I think we're going to get probably less movies and more TV shows potentially.
Potentially. Right. I mean, we'll see what happens for sure.
It brings up a question, Ray. Is it too much? Can they do too much? Because this is what might happen if they're not careful. If they start putting out movies too quickly, or there's too much content in between, and people can't keep up for whatever reason. Yeah,
you start to oversaturate, and
right. The spoilers ruin it, and people just don't want to do it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, that's what's happening with WandaVision. Like again, I'm staying off the internet because people are talking about episodes 5 and 6 because they're terrible monsters. But
yeah, I don't know why people would do that. I just don't get it. It's not anyway.
Because they're bad.
They are. No, really. If you spoil a show like that, it's not the end of the world. But like, what are you doing? Why would you take that away from somebody? It makes you feel good to take away that enjoyment from somebody. Something's wrong with you if you do that.
No, I completely agree. But yeah. So something that we don't know what's going to happen with yet is actually a big thing in the comics. We don't talk about the comics themselves too much anymore, but Marvel's doing a really interesting thing right now with the X-Men in the comics. For those of you who don't know, Krakatoa, which of course is the giant mutant island in the X-Men universe and Marvel universe, basically has become a haven now for mutant kind. They've been persecuted for so long that they've decided to leave most of polite society, and they've set up now on Krakatoa. It's big enough to hold all mutant kind, or most of the mutant kind. But there are still people out there who, for a variety of reasons, are hunting mutants and trying to experiment on mutants. So Jean Grey and Cyclops in the comics have decided we need to bring the X-Men back. We need an X-Men team here, the Krakatoa team, to protect the mutants that are here, kind of act as a police force. And so they're putting together a roster. But what's interesting is that I think Jonathan Hickman is writing this. Just want to double check. Of course, I can't find anything easily. But yeah, I think it's Hickman, who's typically one of the more... he plans out his storylines years in advance. So this is actually an interesting test for him because it basically means he is going to have to he's going to have to kind of change things on the fly, at least to start off this storyline, as 10 different X-Men people who have been mutants or part of the X-Men or around the X-Men in the past are now candidates to be the last member of this new X-Men team. They are Armor, Marrow, Banshee, Polaris, Boom Boom, Strong Guy, formerly of X-Force, which I think is a fun pick, but I was not the person I voted for. He'd be my number 2. Cannonball, Sunspot, Forge, classic X-Men, and Tempo. So you have a nice mix of old and new here on this poll list. A lot of variety, very different power sets all around. My vote was for Banshee because I relate to him because I have a supersonic scream as well. I just don't use it for the sake of you people out there listening. So representation matters. So Banshee, as for all us screamers out there. But yeah, no, he that was my vote. But Lee, what are your thoughts, and who are you voting for?
Well, there's who I want, like, because I like them, and who's best for the team. Who's on the team right now? Do we know?
We don't know.
Right.
That's the really interesting thing is that we don't know.
Right.
The team roster outside of this, because it could. You're right, because that's the thing too. Is I voted just on who I really like because.
Yeah. I mean,
I would have gone the way of who fits with the team had I known the team.
I love Strong Guy. For those, I mean, he was fun in the '90s.
Yes.
His name is literally Strong Guy.
Yeah, that's his mutant name. Yeah,
you can guess his powers. But like for me, it's a tough one because I love Forge as well.
Yeah.
Polaris is pretty powerful, but like Sunspot's extremely powerful.
Yes.
So it's like who I'd want, probably Strong Guy. Who's the best pick from this? Sunspot is insanely powerful. I mean, for those of you who don't know, basically shoots the power of the sun at you.
Yeah, he's basically solar power. Yeah, he's solar powered, and he can redirect that solar energy and fire and other stuff. Yeah.
Well, he's way more powerful than some of the other fire mutants that we've seen. Right.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He
Pyro doesn't hold a candle to him.
Yeah. No. But so Sunspot was actually in Days of Future Past. For those of you that watched that film, he was unfortunately taken out by the Sentinels in that film. Because they could absorb his power, but he's super, super powerful.
Yeah.
I mean,
Polaris, which right now they haven't announced who yet, but Polaris is winning the early poll results.
Right.
It's Magneto's daughter.
Yeah, it's not a bad pick. Yeah.
Yeah, like legit, like, and she has her dad's powers exactly, and Magneto is one of the most powerful mutants in the world. So.
Yeah, and again, like.
He opens wormholes.
No. It depends who's on the team. Is what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm trying to say. So it's like I love that Marvel's doing this in the comics. I love that they're getting the audience involved. I think that's a smart strategy right now with everything that's going on. I actually think this is a good list of mutants. I mean, but here's the thing with this list, some of the people that are already on the team. Basically, you know what I mean. This is going to be like a fifth member type deal, fifth wheel type deal.
Right.
But we'll see. Like I don't know much about Boom Boom. I mean, Marrow is not powerful enough in my mind just because she can make bones come out of her body and
I mean she's a great hand-to-hand combatant and stuff and like shields and like she's a good personal for herself, but like Cannonball, like I don't know, like to me
I don't know armor that well, I'll be honest with you.
So armor is basically she can put an energy field of armor around herself and she can kind of like when she's got the armor on she's pretty strong. She's not as strong as Strong Guy, but like
again,
she's enhanced strength and enhanced defense. But it's like
so that's my point. Like it doesn't fit if I'm putting a member. And I'm guessing Tempo has some sort of flash type power. She's very fast. I'm guessing.
Yes, it's all about speed and stuff like that.
So
I mean,
it depends who's on the team. Like and then Forge again. Forge is awesome. I don't know how he fits in here. He's a little bit more of a darker character. A lot of time travel with him, right? He's been involved.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the thing is that depending on. Like, Forge and Sunspot have actually already been featured a lot in the recent comics, so I think they're actually not going to get a lot of votes because it's like they've already been featured a lot on Krakoa. Forge is creating new bioweapons from its environment and stuff. Because, again, folks, Forge is basically, if he can think it, he can build it in terms of weaponry. So that's his mutant power. Like, he finds a way to just literally create stuff. But, again... and for those who, by the way, if you don't know what I'm referencing, Magneto actually opened up a wormhole once by using the magnetic fields of Earth. It's an actual storyline. It's an actual thing that happened. For those of you who don't know, because you're like, that's not Magneto's power. It's like trust me.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't. Yeah, if any of you didn't know that.
Yeah.
Magneto's magnetic powers have a lot of secondary effects that people don't know about.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like Forge. I mean, Forge would be a great business owner with power like that.
Yeah, for sure. He would know exactly what people want, and he could make it. Like,
if you're interested in learning more about this, check it out, marvel.com /X-Men vote, or just look on Twitter or the internet, and you can find some more about it.
We also have we're gonna get to this, but we have some breaking news that needs to be talked about here in this section. No, actually, not in the comic book section. It'll go into the video game section. It'll go in the Geeks section for sure, but we have some breaking news that we're going to get to very shortly. So when we're recording this, it's 8:53 in the morning, Pacific time on Tuesday, February 2nd. I don't have a calendar. But yeah, no, so it's an internal calendar. It's February 2nd. It's the morning of February 2nd. You're going to be listening to this early to February 4th. So that's a tease. Stay tuned as we leave the comic book section.
Well, now you just teased me too, so I got to wait now too. Okay.
When we get to the video game section, this is a huge deal that was just announced on Twitter. So, but yeah, so that does it for Marvel. Moving on to DC now. Wonder Woman 84.
Wonder Woman.
#1 streaming movie in January. Most minutes watched. I guess that's how they're doing the rating system now for a lot of this stuff.
#1.
Despite terrible critical reviews, including reviews here on our show. Look, the first movie was great. So, of course, everybody was going to watch the second one. Now we're going to see what happens with the third, because a lot of people did not like the second movie. But we all watched it because we were curious to see what it could do.
Yeah. Yep. Again, I don't know why people are so surprised that DC made a DC movie, but this just shows the power of streaming and that these movies can do well. And that, by the way, the next time we see a Wonder Woman film, it will be after Justice League Recut. It will be after several other films. So they're fast tracking it. Look, this is more a statement to what streaming can do than it is the film itself. All right, like to me, when I take a look at this, it's like, okay, look, there's clearly potential to make this go full force if you want. That's all. That's all I take away from it. It's not so much the movie itself. It shows people will watch it. Also shows a lot of people downloaded HBO Max. A lot of people.
Yeah, it's a big deal for streaming. So
right. Justice League Snyder Cut's coming in March. So
yeah, I think it's March 18th or March 21st.
I really am legit looking forward to that. I hope I'm not let down.
Me too. I mean, we'll watch it. We'll obviously give a full review here in Geeks Who Like Sports. But yeah,
maybe we'll stream lounge it in a couple.
Segments. Yeah, we'll do 4 hours. That's a long stream lounge. But yeah, so other stuff coming to HBO Max. We talked about Wakanda. We're getting more TV shows for Disney Plus. They announced a live-action Harry Potter TV show for HBO Max, which is a big deal for the Potterheads out there. But yeah, I mean, again, HBO Max is trying to go. We mentioned Peacock got the WWE Network. You're starting to see this is the future. These guys are starting to gear up. Like all these streaming services are starting to armor up and be like, okay, you have Wakanda, we have.
Yeah, we predicted this. Ray and I. It's not hard to predict, but Ray and I were talking about this a year ago that you're going to see these companies start buying properties big time, and it's happening now. And when it comes to Harry Potter,
investing in their own properties, like this one,
when it comes to Harry Potter, the question I have for those of you that are listening actually is that the Potter audience right now is kind of having a tough time with J.K. Rowling because of some of the comments that she's made publicly over the last 5 years, really. So I know some extreme Potterheads, for lack of a better word, and they're having a hard time with her right now. So it'll be interesting to see how involved she is with this. I don't think they could have got it without her saying she needs to be involved. And I think a ton of people will watch it, to be fair. But now the Harry Potter universe is getting even larger. They had Fantastic Beasts and they had obviously the movies, but now you're taking it to another level. So I actually wish them the best. I really enjoy Harry Potter. I enjoy the films. I'm not one of those people that's against it. It's fun. We'll see what happens there. Good on HBO for doing that. That's a hell of a property. Keep in mind, too, we got to talk about Amazon has Lord of the Rings. They spent $1 billion on whatever they're making, and no one has seen anything about it yet. So I'm property buying, man, and the universe building. That's the other big thing is building universes right now.
Yes.
Which obviously Marvel invented. You're starting to see that with other things too. Can we make a universe out of this? So it's interesting. It's interesting to see where they're going.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be it's for sure, definitely for sure. I'm curious to see where they go. But again, HBO, they realized they got something. They probably got a huge influx from Wonder Woman, and then they need properties. And Lord of the Rings for Amazon. We're gonna get into Amazon and Google a little later with some of their other ventures.
Look, with HBO, I can't stress this enough, right? Justice League has to hit. It has to hit. Because I know I bought that subscription for that. Like other things too, but primarily I bought it for the Snyder Cut. Mm-hmm. It has to hit. If they miss the mark with that, I think they're going to be in real trouble. I think
you're going to see a lot of people unsubscribe, much like the terrible Royal Rumble results from yesterday with WWE Network. But we'll get into that later. Actually, is it on here?
Ray, do you want to know how I got these scars?
Yes, yes. Well, that's our next thing. Yes.
My father
Sorry.
was a drinker.
I'm trying something new with my rundown this week, folks. So it's not as working as well. But yeah. So Pat Leahy, for those of you who don't know, senior senator from Vermont. This was a fun story that was brought to our attention on the Facebook page. For those of you who aren't part of the Geeks Who Like Sports Facebook page, this was something that I was aware of like loosely, but somebody wanted us to comment on it. For those of you who don't know, Pat Leahy is a diehard Batman fan, diehard DC Comics fan, and I guess through his senatorial connections or whatever,
And an elected official.
yes, yeah, basically has pulled enough strings to make it into 6 different Batman movies over the years.
I get to do this now. 6.
Yeah, 6. Yeah.
This is the Joker face.
Yeah.
6.
Yeah, 6. 6 different Batman movies over the years, where he's either played himself as a senator or he's played a crooked board member for Wayne Enterprises, or typically if he has anything, he has maybe a line or two in a movie, but or he's at least prominently featured in a scene.
Most of you will remember him from The Dark Knight when the Joker tells the you want to know how I got these scars? My father was a drinker story, and he grabs the rich person, right? That's him. That's who you. I hated my father. That's the guy we're talking about right now.
Yeah. And he's made a cameo in 6 Batman films, and well, I mean, I guess that's one way to use your senatorial powers. I guess maybe I should run for office so I can be in a Batman movie.
I don't think you need to be in office to do that.
Yeah.
But hey, listen, the great state of Vermont usually stays out of trouble, and that's when you get to do things like this.
Yeah, I guess
you don't hear Vermont
so
too much in the news. Yeah, way to go, Vermont.
Yeah, good for Pat Leahy. I mean, good on you, dude, for getting your SAG-AFTRA card for, being a union actor in these films. Like, I don't know, like, good on him. It's I wish I could do it. But speaking of films, and also video game films, which is interesting, a couple announcements. We're making a Borderlands movie, which nobody asked for. But they are making it.
That's so true. Nobody asked for this.
Yeah.
Hey, lady.
Yeah,
pretty lady.
The fans are already furious because casting announcements and whatnot. Eli Roth is set to direct. He obviously has directing. He does have some good chops. But Kate Blanchett and is supposed to play Lilith, and Kevin Hart is supposed to play Roland. And everyone's like, "What? Roland's supposed to be like this big, like he's like The Rock. You got Kevin Hart in a role that's meant more for The Rock. What are you doing?" So the fans are already really curious, really questioning the direction of the film, considering the casting. But again, it's also one of those things where I don't think anybody asked for this video game movie.
No,
and people are really concerned about it.
This is what we've learned, though, is everyone that you've just named, Kate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, and Eli Roth, they're all extremely capable at their craft.
Yes.
So I will always nod my head and reserve the right to wait until the end to do this. Borderlands is a fun property.
Yeah.
We'll see. But if you screw it up, it could really be bad for all their careers.
That's the thing. It
Can't
could really
flop.
be a mark
Flop.
on a lot of them. So, so that'll be curious to see what happens there. Speaking of video games, we're going to get to this breaking news just one more after one more story.
Okay, I'm just doing the breaking news sound.
Yeah, we'll do one more story because we do want to get into this. This is the big thing for those of you who are the GameStop AMC stock, the Wall Street Reddit. For those of you who don't know or haven't been paying attention, basically, me and Lee have talked about this for a while, that unless places like GameStop and AMC drastically change their business model, they're going to go to the way of the dinosaur. We've seen this over the years, right? Like, it's like a lot like times are changing. This was going to happen. The pandemic only sped things up, but this was going to happen anyway because people are buying everything online, buying things digitally. Me and Lee don't even buy physical games anymore. They're all digital. Like, it's just, this is the way things are going. So what ended up happening...
It's the way things are.
Yeah, exactly. GameStop, of course, for those of you who don't know, basically their business model is buying and selling used and new games. And their stock, I think, was at an all-time low. I think about $5 a share.
They were on their way to bankruptcy, which is exactly what the industry should have been doing.
Right, which again, we knew this was coming. They were. they were probably had one more generation. This would be their last console generation. I didn't think they were going to last until the next one.
Unless they pivoted heavily to another side of the business.
Exactly. And look, and we've seen that before. Best Buy, whose stock is over $100, Best Buy saved themselves a few years ago by pivoting from a lot of like smaller consumer media to appliances and phones and TVs and
not
like bigger
CDs
things
and DVD players.
Right, exactly. Like they made
CDs are basically obsolete now.
Exactly. They made a pivot and they were able to save themselves, and Best Buy is now thriving again. New CEO came in December for GameStop. Dude bought 10% of the company, installed himself and two of his friends on the board, and they basically gave this hoorah kind of speech, like, we're going to turn this around, we're going to save it, don't worry. And some folks out there were kind of like, you know what, let's buy some GameStop stock. We might see a spike. What ended up happening with Wall Street Bets, which is this Reddit group that, and again, basically it's just people on Reddit, like anything else on Reddit, talking about the stock market. In this case, we're just talking about like, hey, you think this might turn around? You think we can make a quick buck here? You think this might, like... What ended up happening, though, was they realized that GameStop is what we call and this is very rare in the stock market, a negative float. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means, and I admit, until a week ago, I had no idea what it was either. A negative float is basically what a lot of these big hedge funds and a lot of these big like professional brokers do is they bet against companies that are floundering. The worse the company does, the more money they make, which on the surface is, and a lot of people agree with this, is really kind of crappy. Like, honestly, you're kind of rooting against these companies, and you're making more money by them failing. In fact, it's part of the reason why Elon Musk got involved with this is because Tesla is one of the most bet against companies, which is why Elon kind of laughs the better and better he does.
Right. We should note here, this is not a new practice. This has been going on for years. You can watch the movie The Big Short if you want to learn more about how this affected people during the housing crisis.
It's part of the reason why there was a housing crisis 12 years ago.
Right. So the Big Short is a great film to watch. Just if you want to learn more about shorting, I wouldn't take that film exactly at face value, but it does bring up some great points.
Yes, and it's one of those things where depending on where you fall, it's some people like shorting, some people obviously don't.
It's abused. I will tell you all right now, by hedge fund managers, it is an abused practice, and it is it heavily affects the lives of a lot of people. But this is what I'll say in terms of before last week, it's a legal practice, but it can be abused heavily by large hedge funds.
Well, and not to get into a lot of personal politics, that this is something me and Lee constantly talk about, is that we're obviously very pro-capitalist, but we also agree that there probably should be more regulation with the stock market.
100%. And 100% that if you leave it too unregulated, greed will completely consume it. Now, I will say this because we're going to get into this. Greed is a natural human instinct, and we all have it. And this is one of the things that when I again, I do have political discussions, rarely publicly, I should say, but that's the biggest thing I think people miss. We are all inherently greedy. Now, greed takes on different ways. In some ways, it's making as much money as you possibly can. The literal definition of greed and what you see on the movies. If you want more time with your kids, if you want more time to play games, if you want more time away from your work, that's greed as well. Yeah, that's just a different form of it. Right. So my belief is that the more we can acknowledge our greed, the better, because you can control it, in the sense of, too, that the whole country was built on the idea that we are greedy, and then it built a system in which that should be controlled to use for the betterment. That's why that's what capitalism is. When it's being done right, it's, Ray, if I work harder than you, I will get more rewards. If you work harder than me, you will get more rewards. It naturally builds progression. And for the most part, that has actually worked very well. Now, with that said, when you bring race into it, it is absolutely not equal. When you bring gender into it, it is absolutely not equal. When you bring people into it, it becomes unequal. But the system itself is very, very smartly built. It builds progression. Nobody, I will say this publicly, nobody will be able to convince me that the United States from 1776 till now hasn't made any progression. I hear people say stuff like that. It is made, and if you look at the history of mankind, the most progression of any country on the planet in the shortest amount of time. Doesn't mean it's perfect. Doesn't mean it's great. Doesn't mean I'm saying you should be happy. Sit there, be happy with everything you have. I'm not saying that. If you're unhappy, you should fight for everything you can, because we have a system that allows you to do that, whether it's fair or not. But I wanted to say that, Ray, just because that will kind of sum up my approach to this. I think you and I are going to agree on this more than not, but
yes.
I wanted that's where I'm coming from when I look at situations like that. I should also, full disclosure, I am a long-term investor. I am an investor in the stock market. I have a long-term investor. I'll explain what that means in a few minutes. But I am invested in the market. So yes. I don't want to hide that. I think that's important for people to know.
Yes, and also just so you all, for full transparency, I also got in on this and made a whopping $50. $50 off this.
That's groceries, man.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So real quick, so a negative float is basically, again, so somebody's shorting it. A negative float though is when there is actually more bets against the company, more bets than there is stock shares out there for a company. So GameStop got to the rare position where there was 130%. For every 100 shares, there was 130 bets basically against the company. It was 130%.
Which makes sense for a company like GameStop.
It was collapsing. And there are others out there. AMC, I think, was at 80%, and Bed Bath & Beyond was at 68%. And like a lot of these companies that are starting to go belly up just because of the natural economics of the world and how things have changed, so these hedge funds have begun betting against them. What Wall Street Bets did is that some of these guys who are like, you know what, do you think the stock might get a bump because of this new CEO, and maybe similarly to Best Buy, do you think they might pivot and that they might actually start to get their stock price up? Some guys bought it and they saw that there was a really big increase because it was so shorted. And again, by the way, there's nothing illegal or inside about this. Every company has to put out these numbers, and the hedge funds. It is easily accessible public information what companies are being shorted, what companies, where their stock, like every company has to give these quarterly reports and whatnot. So this information was public. So it needs to be put out there that this was, so these guys looked at it, saw the numbers, saw what was happening, and basically started a trend where everybody got into it. Everybody started buying up the stock, basically being like, let's save GameStop, let's do this, and let's make money off it. So the stock went from $5 to, I believe at its peak, over $500 a share. Now that took obviously over the course of a week, but folks can understand an 100% investment. And some people legit bought enough stock and then got out of the market with it, right, that they paid off their college debt.
Right.
Like one person said, I made $30,000. I put $3,000 in. I got like $300,000 back, and I paid off my college loans 10 years sooner than I would have otherwise. You know, and so for some people, this was life-changing, awesome. and it was great. Yeah. Like, and there's some good things.
Yeah.
For me, you know, I didn't even get into the GameStop stock. I bought 20 shares of AMC at $5 a share, and right, I got out when it was a little bit higher. And
yes,
I
had
said,
some good advice on to get out. Yes. I will say that.
Because also, as we're speaking, as of right now, when GameStop's peak was 500, it's back down to 100. Right. So the people and I know people who got in when it was $200, $300 a share and didn't get out.
Right.
And they've lost a lot of money.
Can I talk a little bit about this? So is that all right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
So here's the deal. There's a lot of different angles.
It's a fascinating story all around.
It totally is. All right. These are my quick thoughts on this for the audience listening. Okay, so one is what Wall Street Bets did. I'm like, good for them, man. So one of the cool things about what's happening right now is that with the internet, we can all talk. You can get together. You can find ways to beat the market. And what these people basically did is reverse what the hedge fund managers were doing. And there's a lot of sticking it to hedge fund managers. Now, I'm going to take a step back because look, if you're interested in the story, you can read about it. You can find out what actually happened.
Yes.
Tell you what I liked and what I don't like about it. What I liked about it is that people are looking into investing. People are looking at the market. They're learning more about it. I like that people are able to work together to find ways to make the market work for them. And that's what Wall Street Bets did. I don't have any problem with what they did. What I do have a problem with, and there's two sides to this. One is that the hedge fund managers didn't like this, and they probably intimidated Robinhood and some of these other sharing apps, which are awesome, by the way.
This was if you're interested. Webull, and a lot of the banks, Schwab, a lot of these folks basically put freezes on buying the stocks.
Yeah, they froze buying and they did not freeze selling, but they froze buying. Yeah. Now, Robinhood says that, and look, there may be some legit stuff behind this, and again, I don't want to get too deep into it. The short of it is that Robinhood said that, look, there's a situation here where we have too much money going out. We might not be able to be adequately stay liquid enough to make this work. I don't really buy it. It's possible. I think what happened is the hedge fund managers called the CEO and said, if you don't shut this off, something bad's going to happen to you. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
All right.
It also
and
sounds
that's
like
not
there's some
right.
government pressure too.
Absolutely. Now, here's the other thing I'll say is that there's a lot of people out there like, oh, we're sticking it to the man. We're screwing. The market's evil. That makes me kind of upset. And I'll tell you why. All right. First off, I don't take my market tips from Facebook. Okay. I've been invested in the market. I'm a working class family person. All right. I believe in the power of the market. I invest in companies that I believe in. I'm not going to allow someone who just discovered the market last week talk to me about how evil the market is. I think that's incredibly short-sighted. There are evil people in the market. I'm not saying Wall Street is the greatest thing in the world, but there are lots of people, lots of everyday people invested in the market, either through their companies, through their 401ks, through their Roth IRAs. And again, if you don't know what this stuff is, and I'm saying it to you, that should tell you that you probably don't know enough about this to have too much of an opinion. Yes. Go educate yourself is my next statement.
Yes.
Okay? The next thing I'm going to say is this, is that there was a lot of people that were like, yeah, man, we're screwing them over. Well, okay, listen. If you got in this thing, like Ray said, at 100, got out at 500, made $10,000, $30,000, $40,000, I'm not going to say you're just as bad as they are, but you're doing the same thing. You're making money for yourself, which is not a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing for you making money.
Company, you bet on it.
You bet on it. You're doing it right, essentially.
Yeah.
Now, one more thing. I'll take it one more step further. I did see one report of someone who actually bought like Nintendo Switches for a whole hospital off this. That was actually incredibly gracious. That's pretty cool. But I don't like this higher ground. Yeah, but I just don't like this holier than thou higher ground stories of we're screwing over the market. No, you're screwing over hedge fund managers, which is fine. Like,
yes, we're all for that.
Right,
yes.
but you're not screwing the market over. This is the thing that bothers me, Ray. Nobody talks about what will this do to GameStop, what will this do to GameStop employees, what might this do to other market ventures. People don't care about the long term of these. They only care about the short term because, rounding the conversation, it's all about greed and mismanaged, uncontrolled greed.
Yes.
The market, and Ray, you and I had conversations about this, really good conversations. If you remember anything I just said about this segment, this is what I want you to know. The market is not meant to be treated like a casino, especially when you don't know what you're doing. If you treat it like a casino, it will treat you like a casino. Yeah. And the casino always wins. Always. Yeah. Now, if you invest smart long term, if you take your time with it, you know what you're doing, which I really do suggest everyone do. The market is an asset to this country and to you if you want it to be there. If you say things, well, I don't have money, I don't know what to do, educate yourself. That's the first thing you can do. It's free to learn how to use the market. You could go to Google and get a free education, number one. Number two, apps like Robinhood, maybe not Robinhood now, you have access to the market now more than ever. These are gifts, I'm telling you. I am telling you these are gifts, okay? The last thing I'll tell you is this. You're betting on companies, commerce that you believe in. I am invested in Nintendo, Tesla, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon. These are companies I personally believe in. And if I don't like what they're doing, guess what I do? I pull my money out. It's a vote of confidence into these companies that I enjoy. Do not forget about how many people are in this market. Do not forget that there are average blue-collar workers, a lot of them in the market. Also, do not forget there are a lot of greedy pieces of you-know-what in the market that will absolutely take advantage of it. Okay? Yeah. But it is not evil. Okay? Yeah. It needs to be regulated.
Yes.
It needs to be managed. Yes. I like the fact that a group of people found a way to rig it. I don't have any problem with that. People better wake up to the fact
they temporarily turned the casino around, and basically because hedge fund managers have been treating the market like a casino for like the past 20 years, and so when they get bit in the butt, it kind of is nice. A couple,
I agree with that too. And Ray, the last thing I'll say on this topic, we talked about this. Because what I told Ray is that. If you don't mind me talking about this, I said, look, day trading is a thing, but it's a high-stress, high-anxiety job, and you win as much as you lose. Now, Ray, again, you did say to me, like, you were in this for 48 hours, which was fine. And like I said, I was kind of watching you as your friend. Yeah. But you had said to me at the end, like, man, that was exhausting. And I said, yeah. I said, it's just not worth the stress unless you really know what you're doing. But at the end of the day, I'm really glad that a lot of people are interested in the market. I mean, I actually mean that. I think it's a benefit.
I think there's going to be more positives out of this than negatives.
Totally agree with that. But do not act because you saw this story last week like you know anything about the market. You don't. I barely know a lot, and I've been doing it for over a decade.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm telling you, it's like you drove a car once. You know how to drive suddenly. You never been on the highway. You never gone between state lines, but you know how to drive. You're gonna get in an accident. Okay, so that is my words of wisdom and warning to you, is that definitely get into it if you can. It is a very good investment if you know what you're doing and you have the money. That's another big thing. Don't invest if you have no money or in debt. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. But research and educate yourself.
Yeah, do not throw $5,000 on 12. Okay,
Yes,
you're gonna lose.
It's the roulette table. Yes.
All right, it's not how. If you treat the market like a casino, it will treat you like a casino, and the casino always wins.
Yes, and that goes back to when me and Lee talked. I made the analogy about it. It's like a roulette table. It's like all these guys are suddenly betting on 12, and hey, if it comes up 12, God bless you, more power to you. Like, but that is such a rare thing to happen.
Right, Ray. How about this? I think one of the things I told you, and I actually want your opinion on this. Okay, one of the things I told Ray was when he bought that stock, and it was up. It was up.
Yeah.
And I said, Ray, you should sell now. Right, and this is how the conversation always goes with people that aren't super experienced. I'm not so much talking about you. They go, but it might go higher. It might go higher. That's not the way you want to look at it, because and that's what I told you. Like, Ray, you made twice your money. Yeah. Which is, by the way, very rare in the market. I said you should sell now, but it might go higher. That's the fishing hook that can catch you. Now, Ray, with that, you treated this very smart. You watched it for a little bit. When you starting to fleeter, you got out. Yeah. Right? And what I told Ray, everybody, was this. Okay, let's just say it doubles again. Let's say, like, you sold it and it doubled again. You made money. You won. You won the game.
Yeah.
Right? It's not.
And it's true. And I was at a point where it was a little higher. If I had pulled out a little sooner, I might have made $100, $150.
Right, but that's the market. It is statistically almost impossible to pull out at its peak. And this is what I said. This is my analogy to you, Ray. It's like, okay, you're playing a hockey game. There's 1 second left, and you're up by 5 goals. Like, you won the game. You don't start shooting pucks after the game ends. You won the game.
Yeah, it's over. Yeah,
that's the part of the market that I don't think people understand. That's why so many people jumped into this when they shouldn't have.
Yes.
Right? And and they lost. Dude, Ray knows people that lost lots of money.
Yes.
Okay?
Thousands of dollars.
We don't talk about those people. We just talk about sticking it to the man. It's like, that's not enough. Please take my wisdom.
Again, there's good stories. The guy who bought Nintendo Switches, the guy who paid off his college debt, like, there are good stories from this. And again,
absolutely.
That's screwing over the hedge fund
benefit
guys.
You, though.
And I think we all agree, for everybody who bets against the market and bets against America and bets against these companies, it's really nice to see these hedge fund guys get their comeuppance every now and again.
Totally.
Like, but again, I'm more excited for the fact that you're getting bipartisan push now in government to be like, we should probably regulate this again.
Yeah, that's your effing job.
Yeah.
Right, but so I'm just gonna say this again, I don't fully trust the government with that either.
I don't think they're gonna get. Honestly, I don't think they're gonna get it done because they have the memory of a goldfish. But
and again, I know after the last president has left office, I won't even mention his name. There's just a lot of anti-market thoughts, and it's like, guys, you don't want to bet against the whole market, because if that thing collapses, if the global economy collapses, it is not a better scenario. We go back to World War. All right, and if people quickly go, that might be better, you probably don't have kids.
Yeah.
All right.
So...
The world economy, one of the most genius things that they did after World War II was linking the world's economy together. It created a lot of problems, creates a lot of confusion, it creates a lot of bad things. But the alternative is going back to the 1940s again. All right, which, no offense, I think we've come a little bit in some ways since then. Yeah. We're arguing Netflix and Marvel shows on this show too. But the show exists.
We've made progress, folks. But let's overall.
Sorry. Thank you for indulging me there. I hope
overall, look, this was a big story. This was the big story of the week. This was huge. Right. That's why typically we don't talk. Typically, obviously, GameStop and AMC. Obviously, that's more the geek section of it. But it was also a big thing, and this is because me and Lee do talk about the future of these companies a lot of times. This was a big story. This kind of took the world by storm for a week.
I think the market's kind of geeky. It's a lot of numbers and like that. Yes, I look at it like it's a geek thing for me. I enjoy being in the market. It's fun for me. But again, I really do. I hope I convince some of you out there to take a different look at the market. And again, I'm sorry if you've been into this for a week, you do not know what you are talking about. Yeah, I'm sorry for those of you listening and watching. Okay, it takes a long time to learn this. All right. And again, if you've been in for a week and you don't know what you're talking about, that's good too. Start learning.
Yeah. Welcome to the Mad Money Podcast with Carcillo and Elias. Bye, bye, bye. Sell, sell,
Sell,
sell.
sell, sell.
Bye, bye,
Sell, sell, sell. Flourish.
Flourish. Flourish.
What's that stock going to do? Flourish.
So, there you go. But yeah, getting back into the geeky stuff. So, speaking of things making comebacks, possibly like GameStop and AMC, obviously they're not going through long term. This is a short term thing. But this was huge. This is our breaking news. This is our big breaking news story.
Breaking news.
EA Sports just announced they're bringing back college football.
No way! That is breaking news.
They just announced right now is the game officially called EA Sports College Football, which makes me believe that they did not get the rights from the NCAA, that they were not able to procure the rights of the athletes and probably a lot of the teams. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do. If, again, this is how it started off. People forget that the NCAA football franchise just started as college football. And it was kind of like a made-up thing. It was a very early thing. And then as it gained in popularity and sold, EA was kind of like, NCAA, you want to give us the license. Trust us. You want to give it to us.
Yeah, of course.
This might be a thing for them to kind of do that again after missing an entire console generation. The last game came out the last year of the Xbox 360 and the PS3s in 2013. NCAA College Football 2014. We missed an entire console generation. Now, we have no announcement on when the game is dropping, when's it coming, who's making it. All they said is that we are making it. It is officially called EA Sports College Football. That is all we have. That is all they put out there. But people are going nuts, and rightfully so. This was a beloved sports game franchise.
It really was. And the things you could do with it, you could take players, have them drafted into your Madden game.
Into Madden, yes. And more. And now with the advancement of technology, it's going to be even easier than ever to bring this stuff to really work, interlink these games. So I'm going to guess it's probably EA Tiburon, which, of course, the guys who make Madden. I'm going to guess that it's those guys also working on college football. Yeah,
it's interesting because of the pandemic, Ray. I wonder if they're making a play for those rights, or if there's some sort of money-making aspect that the NCAA or even the teams want here, because so many teams didn't play. EA paying them for the rights to their logos might be a nice source of revenue right now.
That's true, because
that's very interesting.
Because it's not called NCAA, the teams and the individual conferences can still, they can still, if they can get the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, all that packies, they don't need to call it NCAA. That's just the governing body of everything.
Where the NCAA would come into this is if they're using actual athlete names, or if there's any money going from EA to the athletes, which actually is allowed now. So there's a lot of new rules within the NCAA for this. So that'll be very interesting because, this is going to be a fun story to watch. All right, because again, the rules in the NCAA have completely changed. For those of you who didn't play, EA college football before, there were no names, right? There wasn't the actual athletes most of the time, right? I mean,
and even the cover athletes, they weren't allowed to be used until they were out of college,
right?
So they couldn't get the money.
It was always the Heisman winner, typically. So this is going to be a very interesting story. The pandemic might have actually spawned this. Like I said, if I was, I'm trying to think, a college team that maybe didn't have a huge season last year or didn't play at all, like the Appalachian Conference. I might want that money from EA for my rights. All right, so interesting. Well, I can't wait to follow that. I'm glad you brought that up. This has been breaking news.
Yeah, no, my phone blew up literally 20 minutes ago, and that's the only reason why I know. Because typically, we and Lee, we're not online. We're looking at our notes and stuff, but we're not online. But my phone just blew up, and I'm like, okay, I need to.
My phone lights up and goes dark during the show. I don't look at it because I'm focused on you, Ray.
Yeah, well, I'm focused. The thing is, it was going so much, and that's why I was kind of like.
Let me look at my phone. Nope. There's nothing here about college football.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. I wanted to make sure. I always worry because obviously I have older relatives. I'm across the country, so I always kind of I always make sure to make sure it's just okay, it's not my family, but it's wait a minute, this guy, what's going on? Let me check out this link. And then it was EA Sports College Football. So
that's because you are an expert in your industry, sir, and I respect that, and so does everybody on the show. If only you would know that.
Yeah. Actually, that reminds me. I forgot. I never even heard. I guessed it on a podcast a year ago that never released. Talking about this. Oh well. Anyway,
we will find them and we will take care of them.
Yeah, it's all good. Not a big deal. Hey, stuff happens. The guy, it is what it is. Anyway, but other big, lots of big gaming news this week. A lot of sales
big geek
stuff.
show today.
Actually, Nintendo set all
show
kinds
today.
of sales records.
CNB Lee. C. Ray and Lee, not CNBC. It's C. Ray and Lee today.
Yes, exactly.
It's a business channel.
Yes. Sales rate. Nintendo, the Switch is over the 80 million units sold mark. Means it's sold more than Nintendo 3DS now. It's fast approaching some of the biggest consoles of all time. It's only halfway to the PS2 and the Wii, but it's well on its way considering its life cycle. Animal Crossing is now the second Nintendo Switch game to have sold 30 million units. That's a big deal. It's going to probably surpass Mario Kart shortly.
Maybe we'll get some other games on the Switch soon that aren't on it for some reason because people conveniently ignore it for no reason.
Yeah, so I don't know. But they've also got 10 games now that have sold over 10 million units. The Switch is absolutely blowing up. So good for Nintendo. Their stock is rising. Buy. No.
It's sell. No, it's amazing to me. Speaking of stocks, we can talk about this on the show. I got into Nintendo stock when Pokemon Go was released. So that can time it back for you guys. It's around 2015, 16.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was a good time to buy it because, they didn't have the Switch out yet. It was kind of a floundering in terms of their console. It's amazing that Nintendo continues to reinvent the wheel in gaming. They have a special place in the hearts and in the industry. It's just they innovate in a way that no one else does. And I've always loved that about them. PlayStation and Xbox, Microsoft, and Sony haven't changed much since the first system in terms of what they're doing. We make a computer, and you play video games on it. Nintendo is not afraid to try things, and I'm always impressed with that business. We could all learn a lot from Nintendo.
Yeah. No, for sure. And they're doing well. They're doing it
And
right.
I love that it's doing well for my stock prices.
Yes. Next big release for them is the new Pokemon Snap, releasing at the end of April. So that'll probably be another big seller for them, I believe. Definitely. Yeah, and Pokemon Snap, Sword and Shield is doing tremendous. Like they're just sales numbers across the board are doing tremendous for Nintendo.
Pandemic is another company that's helped. I mean, it's if you're going to buy a system right now, you'd probably want to buy a Switch.
Yeah, you probably bought a Switch, and the pandemic has definitely helped them. But yeah, like Animal Crossing, like a lot of people I know have survived this pandemic because they got into Animal Crossing. So
for those of you who've seen Wolf of Wall Street, where he's like, "You got problems? Pick up a phone and dial." I'm like, "You got noisy kids? Go buy a Switch and give it to them."
Yeah.
No,
there you
but
go.
we don't overdo it in my house, just to be fair. My son does love his Switch, though.
Yeah, no, Lee, we're going to get into that a bit. Lee is very good at monitoring his kids. We'll get into that a little bit. Other story, Cyberpunk. We've talked about this a lot in the show. Cyberpunk continues to suck.
It dropped its price, too. They dropped their price like $20.
Basically, CD Projekt Red put out a brand new patch, being like, this is going to be a massive patch. It's going to fix a lot of stuff. It actually broke the game further. There's actually now several quests that do not end, completely busted. They can't seem to get out of their own way. The game continues to do worse and worse. Their stock continues to drop. And again, also we talked about this before, the equivalent of the Polish Better Business Bureau is breathing down their necks, which probably isn't helping in some regards. But CD Projekt Red is in a lot of trouble. This is a big deal that their latest patch only made the game worse.
Right.
And I think these guys are cracking under the pressure, honestly.
Again, they dropped the price. I mean, look, it is probably the most publicly criticized game of all time, to be fair, in history. I mean, E.T. is up there, but when you look at the internet, this
considering
is
the hype that was behind this,
Well, it makes me wonder, like, it's funny that Keanu has completely distanced himself from this project. Probably not him. It's probably his managers like, get us off this thing. Yeah. I don't want these commercials running anymore.
Yeah.
I bet you he feels horrible, though, knowing Keanu Reeves.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure he really did enjoy the script, and his character was a lot of fun. His character was the best thing probably in the game.
Right.
But the game itself
we'll
sucked.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's give this one about a year.
Yes.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but this is a bad development as the cyberpunk drama continues with CD Projekt Red. Speaking of possible studio closures and other drama, Stadia, streaming. I still think streaming games is going to be the future, folks, along with a lot of other stuff. But the tech isn't there yet, the infrastructure isn't there yet, and we've seen this a lot even in game history. Yes, the PlayStation popularized the CD, but they were not the first to the market with it. Same way with like motion controls and all the other stuff. We saw this with like the Super Scope and the Zapper, and it wasn't until the Wii where the market was really ready for it. The market's not ready for it. Studios can't. Google has announced they're closing all their internal game studios. They will still support third-party games on Stadia, but who knows how long this lasts? As it looks like, much like Amazon, that these big major conglomerate tech companies are kind of like, we dabbled in gaming, we really didn't know what we were doing. We're backing out now as we continue to bleed money.
Right, Apple might be on that list too one day. The thing is, is Google tried to innovate a space and they were far too early. We've seen this before. I've always used the iPhone. The iPhone was not the first smartphone. They were around for a decade. BlackBerry used to be a very big company.
Yeah.
BlackBerry's CEO actually, when the iPhone came out, said that these things won't last more than a year or two. You know, they're still around. They're on their 12th iteration. So, the first one through the wall is always bloodied. Unfortunately, someone will take this on one day and hit it right on the head. But Google did it. They were way too early to the party, and they're suffering because of it. But it is the way of the future. Ray is right.
Yeah, it's a matter of time. The tech will get there. Again, a lot of it is also infrastructure. A lot of people, a lot of gamers, especially now during the pandemic, they live in rural areas, and they just don't have the internet bandwidth to support streaming games, which now, by the way, continue to get larger and larger and larger. Right.
It'll happen. It'll happen.
It will. It will, but it's going to take time.
And they were pouring tons of money. When you and I were at PAX, they had a massive area at PAX for Stadia. I mean, a lot of stuff there, and it's just like, man, I just don't have a desire to go over there.
It just,
you know what I mean? So,
whatever.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. MLB The Show, by the way, speaking of sports games, going back about to the EA Sports thing, MLB The Show 21 announced, coming out 4/20. Smoke them if you got them. Fernando Tatis Jr. is the cover athlete. The big thing about this is they did confirm, finally, yes, Xbox Series X and Series S will have MLB The Show.
Finally.
Is this the beginning of the end of Sony? Maybe not, but it's definitely going to be a big thing for baseball and baseball gamers. It's probably more the beginning of the end for RBI Baseball and MLB Advanced Media making that game, because there's no competition there. MLB The Show is by far the best baseball game on the market, and finally, it is now on multiple systems. There's rumors that they're going to also work on a Switch version at some point, maybe a couple years down the line. But right now, this is a big deal for Xbox gamers. They have gone basically a decade without a real baseball game. I am super pumped. I'm probably going to get it on Xbox instead of PlayStation.
Me too. I mean, look, you and I have talked about this for years. I'd love to play some baseball. I don't have a PlayStation, so I'm looking forward to this game coming out. Number one, number two, it is very weird to see the cartridge, the poster or the cover for it, because it says Xbox, and in the bottom right it says like a PlayStation game.
Yeah,
I've never seen that before. But look, this is Sony opening up the floodgates for some more money.
Yeah,
and it's a big test. If it works, I'd expect a lot of those. I'd expect Kratos to be coming to the Xbox. I expect Uncharted to be coming to the Xbox. There's a lot of games. There's Ghost of Tsushima to the Xbox. I don't know why they would not do that.
Well, it's also a thing of goodwill, because again, also now the fact that Microsoft bought Bethesda. Right. This is one of those things where Sony now has a bargaining chip to be like, look, listen, I know you want to make Elder Scrolls 6 exclusive, but like, you got to put this on PlayStation as well. Right. It's going to be the same thing. It's going to go both ways, where you're going to see
that's good.
Now.
That's good for a gamer. Like, we don't need the exclusivity anymore, in my opinion.
They're not system sellers anymore.
I don't think it is. I mean, the biggest system seller probably would be Spider-Man, and people were super conflicted about that. Just like, do I really want to buy a PlayStation for that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. I mean, if you can even get an Xbox or PlayStation, still people don't have their systems yet. It's incredible.
there's still a bit of a supply and demand
issue. They
said
10 to 15% were resold. It's incredible.
Yeah. So it's the people who the scalpers are the worst. So speaking of the worst, and actually I'm not going to say not really the worst, but Ninja, who of course, for those of you know, Fortnite fame, one of the biggest streamers out in the world.
He is the biggest, I believe, right?
Yeah,
he was at one point.
Yes, I'm not sure if he still is, but he's definitely probably still top 5. Basically, he was profiled by, I think it was the New York Times, which it makes sense. Like, the dude is at the forefront. He's the tip of the spear for this for streaming in general. He's kind of the face.
Deserves it.
Yeah. But he made a comment where they were talking about toxicity and online. I know I deal with it a lot as a streamer, and a lot of other folks do, a lot of women do in particular. And he made a comment where a lot of people, and again, this is one of those things where people are trying to look at things black and white instead of looking at the shades of gray. He basically said it's not his responsibility to parent or police the kids in his stream and who watch him. Now, I'll say that, and a lot of people are like, of course it's his responsibility. Of course I'll say this. Someone who has that sort of reach and is that much in the public eye should try to be a good example for people. And if he sees it, which, by the way, people also don't realize, when you have thousands of people watching you, your chat is just scrolling forever, and you don't see a lot of people and what they're saying or doing. It's very hard, even for your mods. I've had 50 people in chat at once, and it was hard for my mods. They had to slow it down to see everybody and to police everybody, especially when you're playing a game. For me, with a smaller audience, it's easier to say, hey, I'm going to ban you because you're this, or hey, watch your language, or hey, for him, it's a bit tougher. The best he can do, though, is he should try to set a good example and try to be like, hey, blanket, be like, don't use the N-word, don't be homophobic, don't do this, it's not going to be tolerated, and if I see it, you're going to get banned. He should kind of do that. But again, it's also, to his point, parents, and there's a lot of them out there, and I know Lee mentioned this before. Lee's actually very good with his kids in terms of monitoring what they do and their online time and all this other stuff. But a lot of parents aren't, and I also understand it's tough. People are working, all this other stuff. It's very difficult, but there's also a bit of responsibility where parents need to be more involved with what their kids are consuming in terms of media. And if you find out that your kid is one of these kids at 11 years old calling someone the N-word online, well, you know what? Maybe you should, I don't know, you punish him or smack him upside the head or explain to him why that is wrong. There's responsibility on both sides. And I think again, it's not as black and white as people say. I think, again, there's some shades of gray, and that multiple parties should take responsibility for raising their kids. Again, it takes a village. That's right. It takes a village. Lee, what are your thoughts as a parent?
Well, I appreciate your praise about how I raise my children, number one. Look, this is one of those things. If you have kids or you're close with somebody with kids, you're going to have a different opinion than if you have no kids and you're younger and so forth and so on. So, Ray, I agree with you that there's a lot of gray area here. This is how I look at it. One, on the Ninja standpoint, Ninja's a private business owner. He can do whatever he wants to do. He's right. It is not his job to police your kids. Mm-hmm. I agree with what you said, Ray, that it's on him to discuss whether he wants to be morally high or not. I mean, look, you've had I think it was Charles Barkley who said a long time ago, I'm not your role model, right? Wasn't that Charles Barkley that said that? I mean, it's the same. This is the same conversation. It's just a different medium now.
Yeah.
All right. Charles Barkley gets paid to play basketball. He can do it however he wants. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't need to be a role model for your kid if he doesn't want to be. This is his job.
Right.
And I always reverse it. Okay, like you work a job most likely. Are you a role model for everyone that comes into your business, your place of business? Probably not. Yeah. So I think what it comes down to, Ray, for me is that there's a rating system for a reason. There are warnings for a reason. I personally, this is my that way I raise my kids. My kids aren't on too many live streaming games right now. They watch pre-recorded stuff. They'll watch you, obviously, Ray, Yeah. But my son's not, he has no idea that there's a place he can go to watch and interact with other people. That's a choice by me as a parent. I don't really want him to be in that yet because it is toxic.
Yeah.
All right. It is toxic most times. All right. I have been stepping away. I'm 37 years old. I have been stepping away from social media more and more and more.
Yep.
All right, because it is a toxic, horrible place.
Yes.
All right, and what I'm finding is when I do go on social media, I'm in communities that I like and that I choose to be part of.
Yeah.
I'm not part of the ego game. I don't really, put too much faith in what people post, as a reliable source. That's not a shot at anyone, by the way. I mean, I have the people I trust online and the people I don't. But no, what it comes down to is this. If you're a parent, it's your responsibility to raise your children. It's not a video game or a streamer's responsibility to do that. I also acknowledge, like, when you brought up the N-word, Ray, like, I'm not trying to hide the fact my son's going to hear that word at some point in his life or any of the other bad things that are going to happen. I know that's going to happen, and I can't protect him completely from that to the point that, he's never going to hear it. But I can protect him from seeing that now, and I can make sure that he's in a position that I can explain it to him the way that I want to do that as his parent, which is completely my right. Yeah. Right? I have interracial kids. I have to think about this stuff all the time. All right, he's going to be 7 this Friday. Happy birthday, Logan! By the way.
Yes,
right?
happy birthday, Logan.
right? I don't know if a 7-year-old should be in a position or in a chat room where people are spouting that word out and other words and stuff. It's my choice as his father, and I'm doing the best I can. That's all any of us can do. I'll tell you this: his Switch and his the TV, they're not long-term babysitters for us, right? I am pro gaming, obviously. I'm not even against the TV. He shouldn't be doing it 8 hours a day. It's a reward. He earns it. He earns his time. I'm very, very clear with him about earning time. You have to earn it. Here's how you earn it. He also has a very good understanding that, he's a smart kid. Being smart's not enough. You got to work hard. So we're using these as tools to help him grow, and he really does enjoy his time when he's on them. But that's a conscious parenting mindset. And I will still make mistakes. I will still mess up. No one parents perfectly.
Yeah.
I'm just doing the best I can. That's all I can. At the end of the day, Ray, as a parent, I want to be able to look back at the end of each day and say, look, I did the best I could at being a father today. And I'll tell you this, not every day I don't go, yes, I did that today every day. There's days I wish I was better. The whole process, though. Nobody parents perfect. There's no perfect parents.
Yeah. No, and again,
but there are perfect scores on video games.
Yes, a lot. But yeah, no, I mean, that's even with me. Like, I mean, like, again, in my chat, like, I guess I feel responsible for a lot of the younger audience. I know, I know there's a lot of younger people in my audience that typically most of them are under the age of 16. Like, they're in their early teens. And
it's
like,
a choice, though. You made the choice. And that's my point.
Well, and I tell them, and it's like, look, and I said, look, this is a family-friendly thing, and I get it. You all hear a bunch of stuff on the playground and all this stuff, but keep it family-friendly. And if you're homophobic, if you use racial slurs, if you all this stuff, it's an instant ban. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no welcome back. There's no second chance. Like, there's no, like, that's it. You're done. Right. You're perma-banned. Like, and it's like, it's to send a message. Right. It's like, look, this stuff is never okay, and that's my channel, and that's how I police it, and that's,
it's
on
your
me.
Choice. It's your choice. That's what I'm saying. It's Ninja's choice as well. One of the best things about America is if you don't like it, stop watching it.
Yeah, I mean, and again, and it's like, it's not defending him.
You
like,
have a
again,
choice
like,
as well.
I would want him to come out and say, yes, of course, all this stuff is bad, and I'm trying to set the best example and all this other stuff. But unfortunately, like you said, Charles Barkley said it. It's like, I'm not your role model. Right. And again, if the parent doesn't want to see it, don't let him watch Ninja.
Choice. You have the choice. One of the things we underestimate and underappreciate the most in this country is when we have a choice, keeping in mind that not everybody has the same ability to make that choice.
Yeah.
Right? Don't ever underestimate your ability to choose. Okay? Yeah. And I'm going to say this again. There are scenarios where that's completely unfair, and some people don't have a choice when they should.
Yeah.
Right? So don't underestimate that.
And here's the thing, too. You want Ninja if you really want Ninja to stand up for certain things and to do certain things, when you stop watching and his numbers go down and he starts making less money, you'll see how fast he suddenly starts to change his tune.
Yeah, you vote with your dollars, you vote with your time.
Yep.
It's one of the greatest things. By the way, did not exist before 1776 too much. Just saying.
Speaking of voting with your dollars, I canceled the WWE Network again yesterday after watching the Rumble on Sunday because the we move to start transitioning into sports now.
You think you know me?
What was that, Lee?
You think you know me?
Yes, Edge. Yeah, folks, this was one of the worst Royal Rumbles that I've ever seen. I'm not gonna lie. I'll say this: that the Universal Title match was solid between Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns, but it does need to be said as a last man standing match. The fact this was an A- match until the end, where a really terrible botch of the ending, where they did a spot with handcuffs, where Reigns was handcuffed to the bottom of a lighting rig, and of course, for those who don't know wrestling, the last man standing match. Is basically you have to knock your opponent down for 10 seconds instead of the 3 count that is typical in wrestling. So the idea is that Kevin Owens handcuffed him to the bottom of the lighting rig. He couldn't, obviously Roman Reigns couldn't stand up. Paul Heyman, who's the manager right now for Roman Reigns, waddled over with the key to the handcuffs in. And the idea was, for some reason, Heyman could not get the key to open up the handcuffs. So the referee, and again, he's counting, he's like 5, 6, 7... And he just stopped because he's watching this, and obviously, again, folks, wrestling is predetermined. The beauty of it is the illusion. Like, most of us anticipated Roman Reigns retaining the title at Royal Rumble. But the idea that Kevin Owens could win the title is why you watch. the idea, the illusion. It's the story they're telling. And the fact of the matter is that this went from an A- match to a C+, B- match immediately, because here it is. The end of the match has been botched. They couldn't get the handcuffs off. The spot was ruined. The ref destroyed the illusion when he stopped counting, because we all know why he stopped counting, because he knows how the match is supposed to end. And we're all just kind of like, well, Roman's definitely retaining now. And then, of course, finally, they did get the handcuffs off eventually. Roman put Kevin Owens into a guillotine, which is a kind of chokehold, and that was it. And it was a very anticlimactic ending to what was really a terrific match up to that point.
You know, the fact that he stopped counting, like, it would have been better if he just finished the count.
Yeah.
And just ended it, right?
Or
and
Paul Heyman hit him or something. And not the
somebody
referee.
could have done something.
Like,
you know?
It just
weird.
It was a really bad improvisation. And for once it wasn't on Roman, because Roman's the one handcuffed to the lighting rig.
Right.
Like, so there was literally very little he could do there. So it was just a really bad moment. The women's championship match, Sasha Banks, for some might know from The Mandalorian.
I was just gonna say. Yeah.
Her fight against Boba Fett was better than her fight against Carmilla, but it was a solid match overall. And then the Royal Rumbles. The women's Royal Rumble, again, was better than the men's. It was a better story. There was better spots. They smartly used that Rumble to elevate a younger talent, somebody who's only been in the main roster for about a year and a half. It was a good moment for the women, whereas the men's, This has been something that a lot of guys at WWE have been spouting online. Some have been punished for this. That they're basically sick of. Oh, by the way, the match of Goldberg, 54-year-old Goldberg came back for a title shot. Drew McIntyre, one of the worst matches I've ever seen. Drew McIntyre destroyed him. It was a terrible match. Goldberg wasn't a good wrestler in his prime. He's worse now at 54.
I don't understand why they keep bringing these guys back. It's not a vote of confidence in the new generation. Yeah. It's a mistake.
Plus, WWE has 4 shows now. You have too much talent on this roster as it is that you need 4 shows: NXT, SmackDown, Raw, and NXT UK, to the point where your rejects are keeping companies like Impact afloat, or you make up half the roster for AEW. You don't need Edge to come back, look, I'll say this. It is a good story. He broke his neck. He missed the prime of his career, came back after 9 years. He doesn't deserve a title shot. Get out of here with that garbage.
Again, it's just feel good stuff. It's like, he was gone. I don't know. Like, I look at him as an athlete. Like, I feel happy for him that he is able to do this.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't get it. I don't understand what they're doing. I don't understand the point of it. And it's like I said, like he kind of already sunset himself. It's kind of like in comics when they kill someone off and bring him back, like bring back Superman. It's like, oh, okay, I guess nobody was really ever gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's my new rule, and we'll get into Hall of Fames later. If you're in the WWE Hall of Fame, you can't have a major title shot anymore. You can't. Right. You can come back and do like a little rivalry, like what he did with Orton last year before he got hurt again, by the way, because he's made of glass, because he's almost 50 years old or however old he is. That was fine. You want to do it? You want to do it with nothing on the line except for pride against Orton? I'm perfectly fine with that. He's 47 officially, by the way. He is 47, going on 48. So the dude, he can't hold up anymore. And you're gonna give him a title shot at WrestleMania? I'm sorry. I love Edge just as much as the next guy, but
Well, Ray, here's the real question: are you gonna watch WrestleMania?
I don't think so.
That's a big statement. That's what you need to. That's the key right there. Like, here's the thing, man. 10 years ago, it's not a question of are you going to watch WrestleMania. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, now you just wait.
Yeah, that's it. I'll get the recap. I'll get the recap the next day because I don't need to watch it. So, but you know what's something I do need to watch? Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Yes. So we're gonna get into our Super Bowl preview here. We touched on it a bit last week. Obviously, we all know Mahomes versus Brady, the new generation, the old generation. The Bucks, by the way, this is a fun stat. The 12th team to represent the NFC in the last 15 years. Only the Giants. Seahawks, and Niners represented them twice. Seahawks went 1-1.
That's
Niners went
incredible
0-2.
parity.
Giants went 2-0.
That's incredible parity for the NFC. Unfortunately, the AFC, it's one team a lot of times, and then the other teams that were there.
Yeah, it's
a lot of time.
Yeah, it's now time for the AFC. Although now, funny enough, Kansas City might take over that moniker for the Patriots, where they might be there every year, but we'll see. But look, it's the Bucs are a good team. I just think the Chiefs are better in every way possible. Like, I don't see how the Chiefs lose this, honestly.
Is that your prediction? Or are you predicting the Chiefs?
I'm predicting the Chiefs by a touchdown at 31-24. I'm saying it right now. The only way that doesn't happen is if for some reason the Bucs force like 3 turnovers or something, and I just don't. The Chiefs haven't done that all year, knock on wood. I don't see that happening here. Mahomes, as crazy of the plays he makes, he doesn't turn the ball over. I think he did once. Actually, I think there was one game this year where he did have 3 picks. But, like, unless the Bucs do that to him again, I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening.
There are incredible storylines in this. By the way, when you hear me go, Mahomes, that's going back to a very early episode that Ray and I did where we gave NFL quarterback Pokemon names and sounds. Yeah. So Mahomes' sound is Mahomes. Ray, I'll let you think for a minute on what Brady's name is going to sound like in a Pokemon sound. Brady. Listen, Brady. You have the Greek god of football in Tom Brady coming back to another Super Bowl with a team that is clearly destined to be at the Super Bowl, a team that has overperformed the entire season in a good way against the team that just won the Super Bowl, and an athlete in Mahomes who clearly is staring across the field at, I am going to take this mantle. Just incredibly great storylines. In terms of a prediction, my first prediction is that this is going to be a really great football game.
Yeah.
All right. I'm actually really looking to this. There have been years where I've gone into the Super Bowl. I'm like, okay, there's been years obviously where the Eagles are in and I'm going nuts. I'm very excited to watch this game. It is a tough call to pick a champion. I'm a big believer that if you're there, you deserve to be there. Yeah. You have this kind of thing where the Bucs are playing at home for the first time ever in a Super Bowl. That a team is playing in their home stadium. I don't know if that plays into it. They're lucky that there's no crowds. Kansas City's lucky there's no crowds this year.
Yeah, there'll only be a few
you also have a
people,
team that just won. I'm having a really hard time predicting this one, but if you put a gun to my head, it is still hard. Well, because here's the thing. This is what it always comes back to me, is if it's a 1-score game and Brady has the ball with 2 minutes left, that's a different scenario than if it's a 2-score game. You know what I mean?
No, for sure.
So I think you have to go with Kansas City. I think you have to go with Kansas City in terms of who I think is going to win. The way they've been playing, the big question mark, the only question mark for Kansas City is Mahomes concussed, and we don't know about it. He played last game fine, although his team kind of surrounded him because Tom Brady is going to be in top form.
Yeah.
I think that the overarching thing that I look at is experience, and when I look at the Bucs, a few players have experience. When I look at Kansas City, 95% of those players have experience.
Yeah, because they just won. Yeah,
and know what it's going to take to win. I think that puts them over the top by 1 score, and I think that for the first time in his life, Andy Reid will have good clock management and not let Tom Brady have the ball back at the end of the game.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting to see what happens for sure.
I'm just hoping for a great game. I can't say that enough. I just want a great game. I don't really care who wins. Yeah. But I just want a great football game. And again, this is not the Swan. People are gonna say, "Is this the Swan song for Tom Brady?"
No, it's on a 2-year contract. He's coming back next year.
He's also in the Super Bowl, so he's obviously doing something right.
Yeah, I love the story that during last year's game, he said, "I'll be back here next year, not wearing a red velvet jacket," because he was part of the NFL 100 team last year. So that was, it was funny. So that's
still is. Yeah.
Yep.
Just moving up that list.
There you go. By the way, it's just more breaking news. The EA Sports college game. It is with the license with the Collegiate Licensing Company. Not sure what that means for likenesses and stuff like that, but that is a.
If I'm not mistaken, that is every team name and logo but
Right.
it's not. It's a little different than the NCAA, obviously. So
Yes.
that there's a massive amount of money there for the licensing that will go to the schools too. As they'll get their piece, and then the rest will go to the schools.
So there you go. So there.
I'm assuming that. I'm assuming that. I might be wrong. To be fair.
So that's breaking again. As again, this is happening to us as we're recording this on Tuesday, February 2nd.
Hopefully you listened or watched this before the Super Bowl. Otherwise, you know who won already.
Yeah, exactly. Some other stuff, we don't know who's going to win next year, though, but a lot of teams are gearing up. A lot of trades, a lot of trade talk. The big one, the Rams think their window is right now because they traded a boatload of stuff to Detroit. They traded 3 picks, 2 first-rounders, and a third-rounder for Matthew Stafford, who, by the way, is only 32. People forget. They think Stafford's been in the leagues for a while, but he's still in his prime as long as he's healthy. He just, outside of the couple of years with Calvin Johnson, has not had a good team around him. They trade Jared Goff, who obviously we all know has been underperforming. And now the Rams don't have a first-round draft pick till 2024. They've officially traded 7 straight first-round draft picks for other players. It's worked in the case of Jalen Ramsey. It did not work in the case of some other guys. What's going to happen here? But they feel their window right now is the next couple of years with Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, because a lot of those guys, once their contract is up, they're not going to be able to get under the salary cap, saying that right now. But they have Stafford. They have a guy. This is a clear upgrade at quarterback, but they have mortgaged their future for an attempt to try and win the Super Bowl now with McVay and Stafford, who is a better quarterback than Goff. But I think that the Rams, I think this is going to bite them in the butt, and they're going to be a bad team for years to come after this 2-year window closes. Lee, what are your thoughts? As Detroit, by the way, clearly rebuilding under their new coach who's biting off people's kneecaps.
I think it's a gutsy move by the Rams. I think the ownership is banking on that McVay is the next big name in coaching. I think there was a conversation with McVay and ownership that was, I need a better quarterback or someone who understands me a little bit better.
Yep.
Not a shot at Jared Goff. That's a personnel thing. And apparently they think Stafford is the human being that can get them over the hump. I think that team is a lot closer than people think they are. A lot closer. And I think they have a genius head coach, not just a good head coach. I think Sean McVay is a genius that's still learning, but a genius. So I think that, again, when teams make trades like this, they're not trying to stress all that people, they got hosed, this team got screwed. No, this is a win-win in the eyes of, on paper right now, of McVay and the Rams get what they need to get over the hump. They do. I mean, I think if you look at them, if they had that this year, they might have gone a lot further. And then, like you said, the Lions get a capable quarterback. I mean, I'm guessing Stafford did not get along with their new head coach. I mean, I think there's a lot of personality movement happening right now. Giving up first overall picks is a dangerous game. But I will also remind everybody listening that 50% of first-round picks do not pan out.
They're busts, yep.
Right? So I think we also have to look at, and I don't have this information in front of me, you also have to look at the Rams' 2nd through 7th round picks and see how they've played out, because there might be a lot of trust there that they can develop a football team without first-round picks, right?
Yeah.
So everybody has an opinion on this. Everybody looks at stuff, like you said, face value, black and white. I don't think this trade was made lightly. I think it's highly crafted, to be honest with you, and it's highly risky. But if you want to win, you want the Rams to come out of their division and come out of their conference, this is what they probably needed.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's for sure. It's definitely a big move. The other big potential trade talk is Deshaun Watson. He has officially said, I want out of Houston. I don't want to be here for this rebuild that you guys are going to go through. You guys traded away my best weapons. You clearly don't have faith in what we can do. I don't want to be here. And there's also rumors that J.J. Watt wants out too, which would be a huge deal. I
think he does. He has been outspoken this season about the culture of the Texans and his time there. I think he's just ingrained with the people, so he's probably conflicted.
Yes.
But that guy's an asset, and he only has so many years left. I'm sure he doesn't want to be part of he doesn't want to be part of a rebuild either. So, a lot goes into the building and deconstructing of a team more than people realize, right? It's and this is one of them. That's a culture problem. Yeah. Right? This is a team that was very good not that long ago.
They were in the playoffs last year. They made it to the 2nd round before they lost to the Titans.
Yeah. J.J. Watt has been outspoken this season about their lack of effort, their lack of pride. Yeah. And if he will not stay there if if that doesn't work. I'm sure he'd love to go north, to be honest with you. He's from
I mean, we've actually been hearing that a lot this league from a lot of cultures. And actually, former Eagle Aguilar came out and basically said, I don't want to be a Raider next year because after he had a career year for him, almost broke 1,000 yards, really kind of became David Carr's #1 target the last half of the season. He's like, you guys don't care in this locker room. They called him out. They said he actually called him out. They actually came out. He cut off John Gruden and just yelled, "You all suck." And he basically was like, and he basically kind of compared it to where he was in Philly. And credit to Peterson, at least at the time, which of course that locker room seems to have collapsed as well for a variety of reasons.
Well, it's changed, for sure.
It's going to be curious to see where Watson goes. A lot of people saying the favorite spot is the Jets. But now there are rumors that the Giants are getting in on this, the Dolphins, possibly, because basically...
all subpar to bad football teams right now.
Well, and that's the thing, is that basically whatever happens is obviously it's going to be a trade similar to Stafford and Goff. It's going to be quarterback for quarterback plus picks. Do the Giants send, or the Jets, they've already said the Jets send Darnold and 3 first-round picks, supposedly. That is what the asking price is for Houston. Do the Jets make that move? To me, the Jets don't, just because the Jets need so much else more than just a quarterback. Whereas, in my opinion, if the Giants were to make that move, listen, honestly, I'm not. Juju Smith-Schuster is a free agent from Pittsburgh. If the Giants did what they did when they got Plaxico Burress and re-signed and signed Juju in free agency and trade for Deshaun Watson, there is no doubt in my mind. And honestly, folks, you can say I'm a homer or whatever. The Giants get Deshaun Watson and Juju Smith-Schuster plus our defense from last year, which, again, everybody is still under contract. I think the Giants going to come out of the NFC East next year, if not make a run for the
Giants
championship.
Are only missing a few pieces.
I think we need we need a legit #1 receiver, which would be Juju, and we need a quarterback, which would be Deshaun Watson. And I think at that point, I think we're right there. I mean, yes, obviously Dak will be back. Obviously, you don't know what you're going to get from Carson or Hurts in Philly, and I think Washington is still kind of has a quarterback problem. They don't know what they're gonna do there, whether Heineke is the guy or what Smith is going to do. I think you get somebody like Deshaun Watson suddenly in blue with a Juju again. This is all on getting a #1 guy like a Juju Smith-Schuster in free agency. Suddenly, the Giants look a lot better than they've looked in probably the past 5 years. I'm not going to lie. And it gets me excited. I would give up. And also, by the way, considering how bad the Giants have drafted the last 5 years, take our picks. Take our picks because we always mess up with them. You want to talk about, the Giants bust in the past few years is almost 100%. So, take our picks. Give us a proven commodity in Deshaun Watson. And I don't know. I don't think the Giants are going to do it because the Giants don't typically do that kind of thing. But God, do I hate Daniel Jones. So it's going to be interesting to see where Watson ends up. Moving on now to baseball. Some news coming out of there.
Whoa. I asked you a few minutes ago for a Pokemon sound for Brady. Now, I know what mine sounds like. What does yours sound like?
Brady. Tom Brady.
Yeah, okay. Mine's more like Brady.
Yeah, that's
Tom Brady.
Oh, God, I hate him so
Brady.
much. I hope the Chiefs
tonight's matchup, it's Mahomes versus Brady.
I hope the Chiefs win by 40.
On to the worst league in professional sports. Yeah.
Currently, yes. Major League Baseball Union has rejected the idea of the expanded playoffs that were implemented during the COVID season.
Of course they have.
Because they don't like fun, and they also turned down the universal DH rule.
Of course they did.
Because they don't understand what's good for the game, and again, the baseball union is the worst union in sports because all it does is hurt the game continuously. I just don't know what else to say. It's really, really a shame, and it's really
baseball fans. I need you to sound off. I am actually not being sarcastic. Give me a reason to watch Major League Baseball again.
Yeah.
They have completely lost me. Now here's the deal. I'm going to say this again. I love baseball. I don't love Major League Baseball right now.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time with this league, screwing everything up. We haven't even got through everything they've screwed up yet.
Yeah.
Okay? Give me a reason to watch Major League Baseball, please. You know what? We always talk about how beautiful it is and romantic it is. I am so pissed off at this league.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to me. I really am. I gotta say that.
Yeah, no, it's true. There's nothing else to say. It's just
the DH was obvious, and it kills me. You know what this is? It's the stupid tradition rule.
Yep.
Well, I don't want to watch my pitcher's bat.
Yeah.
What do we? It's a wasted at bat.
It's a given out almost every time. It's a given out for the one highlight a year of a pitcher of a Bartolo Colon going yard.
What are we doing?
It's
what
not
are
worth
we
it.
doing?
It's not worth
it. It is so dumb that they're holding on to that.
Yeah,
but the playoff thing. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I want it, but okay, I get that a little bit.
Right. But the universal DH thing, it's just
stupid.
It's better for the game. It's better for competition.
They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care.
That's exactly what it is. And that's the sad thing. It just, baseball's in a lot of trouble. And I guess in one way.
What was the defense, by the way? So what was the defense for the DH staying in, or for the universal DH not happening? What was the defense from them? Oh, it's just not the way we've always done it. That's a recipe for. That's the recipe for most dangerous phrase in the English language.
Yep.
It's just the way we've always done it.
Yep.
You're screwing up more, and we haven't even gotten to the biggest screw up yet.
Yeah, no, and it's and that gets us now into more scripts with the Hall of Fame. Baseball announced. The only good thing is that the 2020 class will now have their moments here, as they'll be the ones who get to give speeches this year in Cooperstown. But there is no 2021 class of Major League Baseball. Nobody hit the 75% threshold.
Zero. No players going in.
It's the first time in 8 years that's happened. It's a rare occurrence. It's only happened a handful of times over the years since they started the Hall of Fame in the 30s. This is Curt Schilling was the closest. He get 72%, 71%. And he was very vocal and basically said, you know what, I'm sick of the writers. They're never going to vote me in. Don't even put me on the ballot for the 10th year. I'll wait for the Veterans Committee to vote me in. And if they vote me in, then great. But otherwise, I don't want to deal with it anymore. And part of it is also nobody is denying that Curt Schilling's a jerk. Curt Schilling is probably a terrible human being off the field. He was for the insurrection in the Capitol. He's been racist, homophobic. He is a terrible, disgusting human being. But when you talk about the history of baseball, as much as it pains me to say it, you can't talk about it without someone like Curt Schilling, who was a 3-time World Series champion, who continued to have some of the best moments on the field. It's like when football. Lawrence Taylor was a terrible human being for a while there. Womanizer, drugs, the whole 9 yards. You can't write the football history without Lawrence Taylor, who literally changed the game in terms of what he did at the linebacker position. He made the Hall of Fame, and deservedly so. Curt Schilling, and the same thing here with Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, who both hit the 60% thresholds. I hate the steroid era as much as anybody. I hate that there was cheating in baseball. It's the same thing with I hate the Houston Astros. The fact that they're still like the fact that they're, and this is also the double standard. The fact that the Houston Astros are still in baseball and that Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens aren't. Cheating's cheating, folks. Cheating's cheating, and it's if you want to represent the history of your sport, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You've got guys like Ty Cobb in the Hall. You've got a lot of these other guys, a lot of terrible people.
Babe
Ruth was not a good person either. I mean, like, again, going through the whole history. Again, the first 50 years of baseball, no black people were allowed to play. Like again, it's just, there's good and bad. And again, and by the way, they did correct that, obviously, by finally allowing the Negro Leagues to be represented now, finally, in the Hall. Finally. And maybe one day they'll do the same with the steroid era, and maybe one day they'll do the same thing with a guy like again, maybe the Veterans Committee will put Schilling in. But
hey,
baseball's got an ugly history. You have to accept
the moral standard for baseball.
Yeah.
That's what we're relying on, is the writers. That they're the moral standard.
And as a writer, the writers are the worst.
That's my point. It's like, who made them the moral standard for the future? You can't erase the history of the country or of the game. Yeah. You can amend things like statues that probably shouldn't be up.
Yeah.
Right? That's a political thing, but you can't erase that the Civil War happened.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
This happened.
It's a museum. It's a museum.
Yeah.
You learn history at a museum.
I think that my biggest argument to this is that these writers are on a high horse and they're banding together, that we're not allowing any of these steroid players into the Hall of Fame. Screw you. Okay? Yeah. All right. So we're putting this on the same level as Pete Rose. I mean, what are we doing, guys?
But you should also be in the Hall of Fame at
this
point.
That's what I'm trying to say. He didn't even take steroids, right? It's like, I am tired of all this crap. The league continues to disappoint me.
Yeah.
Look, we're going to get into it in a minute. I'm not switching yet. I'm a huge NHL fan. Humongous. I'm very critical of that league when they make mistakes. But they're not doing anything to this level. Nothing. People are, they have lockouts. Yes, I was critical about those too. This is like a whole new level of douchebaggery.
Yeah.
This is incredible. Who made them the moral standard for deciding that? You know who should be deciding this, Ray? Just veterans. That's it.
Yeah.
I would rather the Hall of Fame be decided by former baseball players.
Yeah.
And you know that hopefully have a high moral standing. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't trust writers. I mean, I don't want to say that about everyone. There are good journalists out there, guys. I just hate this. It's so stupid. Just another screw up to me.
Yeah.
Why fans? Why should I watch baseball? You know what's funny, Ray? I've seen diehard baseball fans defend the league.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know how you're defending this league.
Neither do I as a diehard baseball fan.
Me not liking Major League Baseball right now doesn't mean I don't like baseball.
Yeah.
It'd be no different than me saying the NHL screwing up. It doesn't mean I hate hockey.
Yeah.
All right?
And
Just
again, and like Lee said,
trash.
let us know below. Do you think Schilling and Bonds and Clemens should be in? Do you disagree with us? Pete Rose, all of them. What do you think of the DH rule? What do you think of the playoffs not being expanded? Right. Let us know because it makes us sick.
I'll say this.
Anyway.
Never have I not wanted to watch baseball in my life until now. I wouldn't mind going to a baseball game with you and having a beer and watching, just relaxing a little bit. But that's a different world, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That might also be 9 months of COVID-19 talking.
Yeah.
But it's just trash. I mean, MLB has just taken this to a completely different level for me.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of baseball fans that listen to this show. Again, there is a difference between being a Yankees fan or a Phillies fan and a Major League Baseball fan, but it's just I'm disgusted with this league, and I don't know how more people aren't. How are you going to let a team that cheated stick around? Why would I watch? I don't understand that.
Yeah, if you want good baseball, folks, be sure to tune in starting April 20th when my MLB The Show league comes back on twitch.tv/RayCarcel.
Baseball.
Yeah.
That's not what you sound like, but that's the way I like to do your voice.
Well, I appreciate it. It's all good.
I'm Ray. My name is Ray.
Yeah.
I like games.
Everybody loves Raymond.
Everybody loves Raymond.
It's a Stream Lounge thing coming over now into the show, so there we go. Moving on now, Lee did mention hockey. A couple of good hockey stories, a couple of not good hockey stories, but we'll kick off with a good one. Valerie Camillo, I'm going to assume it's Camillo the same way my name's Carcillo, but she has been announced to be the president of business operations for the Philadelphia Flyers. This is, again, a good move as hockey tries to show its inclusivity and, of course, and also people who deserve to be hired in these positions.
Right.
That everybody being considered. She definitely earned this. She has a long, successful business history. And this is a big deal for, of course, the Flyers. It's the first woman in this position for them as hockey continues to diversify.
Something that the Flyers have not typically done in the past. I'm saying that as a Flyers fan has been uncontroversial. So it's a good thing that they're stepping out of that light. They're making some good business decisions here. Look, we saw the glass ceiling for women in sport, professional sport, break recently. I'll say that. And I'm starting to see lots of teams dive in. This is how I've always looked at it as a coach and a former GM. I don't care. I mean this, by the way. I've always taken this approach. I don't care what gender you are. I don't care what race you are. I don't even care what sport you play. If you know something that's going to help my team, I want to know it, and I potentially want the team to know it too, depending on what it is.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. If you have experience that is going to help us, I will lean on that. That is something we're starting to see a little bit more league-wide. What I would say to the men, I can't speak for women, obviously, as not being a woman, but what I can say for the men out there listening to this show is something you might want to think about is when these hires happen, what does your brain start doing? Right? You say, oh, it's diversity hire. Because if the first thing you don't say is, okay, what's that person's qualifications?
Yeah.
For everybody, that's not just women.
Yes.
Your brain's not in the right place. All right? I've played sports with women. I have worked with women professionally in sport. There's no reason they're not on an equal playing field with executive level positions.
Yeah.
Okay? So it should not be a controversy in any way. It's the right person for the job.
Yeah.
One of the things I think about, Ray, sometimes is what are coaches, GMs, owners missing out on because they're not willing to look at certain candidates of a different race, of a different gender, right? And how long have these people been available that, they haven't been hired? I think about that. But
well, and that's the thing on the resume. Just don't look at the name. Just look at the qualifications and then see who
that's
the
a
best
great
person
way
is. Person is for the job. Yeah, if Valerie Camillo was her last job was the hot dog vendor in section 132 of the Wells Fargo Center,
that might not play out so well.
Right. Then suddenly we have an issue. But this woman has a long history in business, is highly successful. This is a great hire.
And we're going to talk about another female CEO in a minute.
Yes, but before that, we're going to stick with the NHL. Thank God my Rangers won last night. Again, this is February 2nd. They beat the Pittsburgh Penguins 3-1 last night. I will say this, the team played probably the hardest they've played the whole season.
Right.
Coming off a very bad situation. Speaking of diversity in hockey, the Rangers have now a African-American defenseman named Keandre Miller, who looks like a good young talent. But one of our other defensemen, Tony DeAngelo, at least at the moment, he's still our defenseman. The Rangers are desperately trying to jettison him.
He cleared waivers. He's not on the team anymore.
He's cleared waivers, so he is done. Tony DeAngelo, after signing a 2-year extension, well, let's just say he was a locker room cancer. He was racist towards Miller. He also started a fight with our goalie, Georgiev, which then ended when Chris Kreider, one of our alternate captains, who should probably just get to see at this point, punched him in the face. Because it was DeAngelo's fault that we lost that other game against Pittsburgh. Honestly, it was his missed assignment, but he tried to blame it on the goalie. And honestly, DeAngelo just a really kind of a scumbag. And this isn't the sad thing is this is not the first time he's been given multiple chances in hockey, and he might not get any more because it's basically it's out there now publicly that he's a terrible teammate and a terrible person, and hopefully he changes.
I will say that. I have to say this as a former athlete and coach. We weren't there, but the reports seem accurate.
Yeah.
All I mean by that is nobody's actually seen what happened, but there's plenty of reports. Look, this is showing now why the Rangers have been having a problem to start the season is that they didn't have a great culture in the locker room, and that's on the coach, but it's also on the players. It looks like the player in question has been literally knocked out of the locker room by Chris Kreider. Kreider die. And they won their next game right after that against a very good Pittsburgh Penguins team. Yes. So this is why I also said last week to everybody, hockey fans, calm down, let it normalize. It's starting to normalize. The Rangers aren't in exactly the best position in the Eastern Division, but they're in a better position. By next week's show, a week from today, we will have a much better view of where the NHL is starting to sync up. But I stand by what I said last week. You can't freak out. You know what I mean? You can't freak out about your teams right now. Every game is a 4-point swing, It's all divisional rivals. Anybody goes on a winning streak or a losing streak, that could mean a kiss of death or rising all the way up, and that can happen multiple times. You got to see the macro. I've said that several times in this episode. You got to look at the full picture.
Yeah.
Rangers are very much within a playoff spot right now.
Yeah.
Right? And, again, when we get to that 15-game mark.
Yeah.
That 18-game mark. That's when, because of the shortened season, now you're going to start to say, okay, wow. But I said it last week, I'll say it again. It's a 10-point variance. If you're 10 points out of a playoff spot, you are in deep trouble.
Right.
Okay? That's by my estimation.
Yeah.
I might know a thing about this.
Yeah, but that's why it was also a very big win for the Rangers against Pittsburgh.
Huge
to bounce back, get those 2 points, really keep things close in that division. Again, Rangers are 3-4-2 as we're recording this, a game under 500, getting to that 10-game mark soon. But if like Lee said, if the Rangers suddenly win 3 or 4 in a row, well, then all's well in the Garden. So,
and they've been known to do that. They've been known to get super hot and win 4 or 5 games in a row.
And that's the thing. And the Rangers, a lot of Rangers right now aren't performing. Panarin's waking up. He scored a goal in 3 straight games now. But Zibanejad has not been going. Lafreniere has not. Our number one draft pick. You got to give
these guys time, man. You got to give these times. It's like the opposite with like the Washington Capitals, who are hot as hell right now. It's like
Washington, Montreal, they're all doing very, very well right now, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, so that's for the NHL. Now we move to a league we've talked about a few times here in the show, the NWHL. Lee, you were
gotta
telling
talk
me about
about
this.
it. Yeah.
You're more familiar with this story, but it's an interesting one. Tell people what's
Right.
going on with the NWHL right now as they are playing for the Isabel Cup.
So a few things are happening. Is the NWHL is having a horrible time with this tournament that we built up. 2 teams have had to drop out. One because of COVID. Another team had to drop out of the tournament. There's only 4 teams left. This is not shaping up well. It's not a good look for the league. I will use the word. It's disappointing. And it's unfortunate. I didn't want this to happen. I wasn't rooting against the NWHL. And then on top of all of this, the Isabel Cup, which they will have a winner. It's just, it's become not fun to follow. Let me put it that way.
Right.
Like for example, last night a Connecticut Whale pulled out of the league, and an elimination game became a game to see who was going to get 3rd or 4th place. And it's just like, well, I don't really want to watch that now.
Yeah.
On top of it, the NWHL got into it with Barstool Sports for no reason. Right? And this is what I'm going to say before I even get into this. I'm not going to pick sides too much on this. It's unfortunate to me that there was not a better course of communication between the NWHL and Barstool, that they could have probably done something together in a much more effective way than what happened. So long story short, the CEO of Barstool, Erica Nardini, who is one of the most famous and successful women CEOs in the country, probably the planet, is a huge NWHL fan. And out of nowhere, for no reason, this did happen. A couple of writers for the NWHL called her out as, you're working for a misogynistic, racist organization. We want nothing to do with you. Now, there is some truth to that in the sense that
Barstool has a history,
they have a history of misogyny. And there has also been some questionable word usage. But I thought David Portnoy, the creator of Barstool, going out getting a pretty much of all-female executive board. They're clearly taking strides to reverse that. He has appointed one of the top female CEOs in the country now. All right, You can't ignore that too. You got to take the good and the bad. It's got the theme for the episode, I guess. So these writers called out Erica Nardini. Erica Nardini responded in a little bit of scathing way of just like, "Hey, I'm your biggest fan. What are you doing? You need us." That was kind of the attitude of it. I don't know why you're doing this. And then, and I don't want to say this athlete's name because I don't want it to become about that. But one of the athletes in the NWHL pretty much said, "You're a white supremacist," right? And now when that happened, I'm like, well, what are we doing? What are we? And they got escalated, and then Portnoy got involved, and had a scathing response. Right, and that's a problem for the NWHL. You don't want Portnoy coming out against it. He even said we're going to start our own women's hockey league at Barstool, which it looks like they may do.
Yeah.
Right? Take a step back. This is my feeling on a lot of these things. And all those of you listening, and even Ray, you can disagree with me here. I'm absolutely happy to have a conversation with anybody about this. My feelings on athletes speaking out, which I've never publicly said, is this. I have no problem with athletes speaking out. I'm just under the impression they probably shouldn't. Okay, that's just the way I am. Most of the time, athletes, not all the time, they're not in a position to say stuff. They don't know how to say stuff the right way. They're saying it off the cuff, and it causes more problems than helps. You can go case by case. You can't apply that logic broadly. Okay, but this is a case where you called someone a white supremacist that is not a white supremacist.
Yeah.
There's nothing to suggest that she's a white supremacist. There's nothing to suggest that she's misogynistic. It was the wrong thing to say, in my opinion, right? And you pissed off El Presidente, which is probably not smart, because here's why. Again, I'm not taking Barstool's side. What I'm trying to say to everybody listening is there could have been a great communication between these two people, these two organizations. Whether they decided to do something together or not, you would have had a much more conducive chance of creating something better for both parties had you just spoken to each other. I think that the NWHL teaming up with Barstool, this is my opinion, right, could have created something of, yes, Barstool's had problems in the past with misogyny. We're going to help them forge a way forward. As the top women's hockey league, we're going to help them change this. It's a call to action. I think that would have been brilliant. I think it would have brought in a whole generation, a whole group of new fans. I think it would have helped Barstool be seen in a different light. That's not what happened. We got childhood playground insults, white supremacist, misogynistic. You're a dumb league. You don't know what you're talking about. I didn't know you existed. And now we have a mess. Yeah. The overall point, and this is what kills me, is the hockey has been completely forgotten. The whole mission of the NWHL has been completely forgotten. Yeah. And it's turned into a PR mess.
Yeah.
That is tragic to me.
And for a small league, a PR mess could be a nail in the coffin.
Yes. I'm not going to say, Ray, that the NWHL needs Barstool. People have been saying that. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
Okay? But you didn't need Barstool against you. I can tell you that.
It's not going to help, right? You
didn't need these people against you. Like it, for better or worse, Barstool is one of the top sports journalism entities in America.
Yeah.
People better accept that. They are not the small fry at all. They are almost $1 billion industry, and they have a massive following.
Yeah.
Not the giant you want to throw a little tiny arrow at.
Yeah.
You just want to let them be on their way, or you want to jump on their back and ride. It's that simple.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were thinking. So, again, tragic to me that the hockey was taken out of it, and it's become a PR mess. But communication, it's usually the cause of all problems. The lack of communication. This was piss poor communication on the NWHL's part, and Barstool for that matter. They could have taken the high road too.
Yeah, but again, it is what it is. It's a mess, and again, the NWHL will probably end up the worse for wear for it.
I believe that they are in deep trouble now because of the way the tournament's planned out and this story. Yeah,
it's a bad 1-2 punch. It's a bad look for them.
We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Moving on, talking about things that are very popular and giants and all this other stuff. What goes into our question of the week?
The question of the week. It's time for the question of the week.
So we were talking about trades earlier and whatnot. Of course, we were also talking about the X-Men and their new roster. So our question of the week is if you could trade an X-Man for an Avenger.
X-person. They're X-people, according to Deadpool.
Yes.
Who is disqualified from this because he's technically not in either of those. He's in both of those universes.
And of course, there have like Beast and Wolverine. They have been Avengers as well before. So let's. I'm going to say this. Let's discount. Because I'm trying to think who else there is.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man's not an X-Man. Well, he's been in both.
He's been in both. Yeah, I was just gonna say. So, all right, go ahead. Let's just do it.
All right, no Deadpool. The usual no Deadpool rule. No Deadpool rule. So, who from the Avengers are you gonna trade to the X-Men? And actually, one the maximum.
Yeah, we're talking let's just do MCU Avengers. That's what we have to do.
Yeah,
MCU Avengers. Just to narrow it down to not the entire Marvel galaxy. Right? And let's do Fox TV show X-Men.
Okay.
So that's pretty much the primary X-Men.
Okay. Well, then that makes it a lot easier for me because then the first person I'm doing is I'm doing something with Gambit.
Okay, so Gambit's being traded from the X-Men for...
Yeah, so Gambit's being traded from the X-Men to the Avengers. Ooh. This is a tough one. You know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to say War Machine.
Oh, okay. No draft picks in that. That's not. I wouldn't make that trade if I'm the X-Men.
Okay, so all right. So
Gambit, War Machine and Falcon
for
or something like that. War
Machine and Ant-Man.
Yeah, I think that would take that. That would work out. Ant-Man's not a mutant though. Now there's War Machine.
Yeah, but most of the Avengers aren't though. Like
no, that's very fair. That's very fair. I'll give you that.
Aside from Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, there's really no other mutants.
Well, here's the funny thing about that. Okay, so if this could go for hours, which I love about it. Okay, but let's just talk before what I want versus what is realistic. I think an even trade would be Jean Grey for Wanda Maximoff. All right, that's an even
is it
trade.
Phoenix Jean Grey?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just double checking. You got to make sure. Is it in prime of her powers
Scarlet
or
Witch?
Not?
Equal power level. That's a great trade.
Yeah.
Wanda loves it because she can be closer with her dad, maybe, or fight him more.
Yeah.
Right. And Jean loves it because no one judges her.
Yeah.
No Cyclops to bring her down. Captain America's like, hi. She's like, hi. And Wolverine's like,
by the way, that reminds me of a funny comic recently where it was young Jean Grey and Spider-Man, and she's like, I really like hanging out with you, and he's like, oh, well, I like hanging out with you too, and she's like, and he's like, it's like that came out of nowhere. She's like, yeah, but she's like, you're the only guy around here who doesn't picture me naked, and he's like, oh, and then of course, and then she's like, until now. Because obviously, it's like, I'm sorry you mentioned it was a really funny interaction between.
That's
Jean Grey.
good.
Yeah.
Who was she talking to?
Spider-Man.
That's brilliant. That's a very Spider-Man.
Yes.
Nice. That makes
that he
sense.
would be that innocent, that he would never think of her that way. But then when
Right.
you mention it, like,
Well,
of course, I mean, any guy, it's at the forefront of your mind.
One day on another show, we'll discuss the fact that women and men think very differently. Period.
Yes.
Can't read your mind, and yes, we are that dumb.
Okay, so
Well, okay, my trade is
Witch
this then.
versus for Jean Grey. What else you got?
Okay,
Anything?
so one I want.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with it because I want to trade Hulk to the X-Men. Now, this is the trick. I want him there just for the interaction with Wolverine, which means I've got to trade somebody back.
Colossus?
Which, see, Colossus doesn't win a fight between him and the Hulk. So I think you got to do two, right? So I think Colossus is obvious to replace some of the strength.
Right.
I mean, Juggernaut would be the only thing really comparable, but he's not really in the X-Men.
I mean, he's part of Excalibur for a while. He did turn good, but it wasn't as strong. It was the whole thing.
I think this. I think you get Colossus, full power Colossus, and Morph.
That's a good one.
And I'll tell you why Morph, because with shield and sword now, he's the perfect operative.
Yeah.
In fact, the reason why you haven't seen it, by the way, for those of you who don't know, Morph's power, not Morph, is basically he can turn and shapeshift.
He's one of the best shapeshifters in the Marvel universe.
He is what's her name? He's actually technically better than Mystique.
He's better than exactly because
he's funny too.
Yes. And he's actually he's a better actor than Mystique in a lot of ways.
Right. So I would bring Morph into the MCU. Now, just so you know, the reason why you haven't seen a shapeshifter in the MCU is because it's too easy.
I mean, and also we've seen them with the Skrulls, and I think you're going to get a lot more of that with Secret Invasion. So
right. Plus, now here's why it's a double win for me. You get Morph, you get Colossus, so you get the raw power.
Right.
Like, so you get a Hulk power level. You don't get the Hulk rage, but you get a Hulk power level. Then you also get to see like Loki and Morph.
Yeah.
You get to see Captain America. I mean, Iron Man's dead, but that would be funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's fair. But yeah, I really want to just see Hulk with Wolverine. For those of you who don't know, Hulk ripped Wolverine in half.
Yeah, in the Ultimate Universe, yeah.
Yeah, and he had to crawl his way back to his legs to reattach them.
Yeah.
And the comic book gods loved the comic book so much, I had to wait 1.5 years between episode 1 and 2 to find out what happened.
Yeah.
Because that's how comic books work sometimes.
Well, they were also probably trying to figure out, we've never done this before with Wolverine. How are we going to explain this?
Right.
And then
but Ray, we want to know
what
you think.
Yes.
So comment below and let us know who you trading from Marvel's Avengers to Marvel's The X-Men.
and what has been a yes, that should be a good one. Yeah,
that's a good segment.
That is a good one. Yes, this has been a good show. We got into a lot. We went a lot longer than we expected, but we had a lot of stuff.
You listened.
Yes.
We appreciate you for listening.
Yeah, we do appreciate you guys for listening. We had a lot to cover here, a lot of big topics.
I do want to say, if you did make it to this point in the episode, if you're one of those people who listens to the whole thing, God bless you. We love you. If you like to jump around from topic to topic, if you listen on Buzzsprout, which is our newer
yes, we've moved from SoundCloud to Buzzsprout. Yes,
right. We can actually put in time markers for you to click around. So if that's what you want to do, I think most of you listen to this while you're walking or jogging or driving
or whatever. Yeah,
or sitting or whatever you do. We appreciate you.
Yes, we do. We very much do. But yes, that's going to do it for this episode. Like Lee said, you can hear us now on Buzzsprout as well as everywhere else as we typically do. We're moving away from SoundCloud though. But yeah, that does it for this episode. Again, you guys know the deal: the Twitter, the Facebook, the Instagram, GeeksWhoLikeSports.com.
Flourish.
Yes, flourish.
Flourish.
So until next week with episode 95, this has been episode 94 of Geeks Who Like Sports. Thank you all so much for listening. Super Bowl. Have a fun Super Bowl. Be safe. Don't get into large crowds, please. But we'll
watch from home.
Yes, be safe.
Get some chips.
And go educate yourself in the stock market. Until next week. For Lee, I am Ray. Thank you all for listening. This has been Geeks Who Like Sports, episode 94. Good night, everybody.